I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5 p.m. This is a special meeting for Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. And Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
I will. Tim Hale.
Here.
I'm not sure if Stephanie Nowers or Dee McKee will be here at the 5 o'clock. Maxwell Sumner. Bill
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
Here.
Ron Bernier. Here. Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, then the agenda is approved as presented. If you'll all stand, please. Madam Clerk, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is audience participation.
Thank you.
Okay. And so we do have some people to testify, and even if you didn't sign up after they have testified, it'll be open to anybody that would like to say something. So, Richard?
And Mr. Stoffel, when you come up, if I can get you to turn the mic on. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right. I'm Richard Stoffel from Palmer, and we just said the Pledge of Allegiance for liberty and justice, and we didn't get either. We passed an ordinance, I don't know, about a year ago or whatever, hand count only. But then promptly after that, y'all bought 40 black boxes. You can call them, they're computers, we found that out, but it doesn't matter what you call them, tabulators, counters. But the ordinance says hand count only. Anything else you use to process the election is illegal. So you illegally counted the votes, and now you're going to illegally certify that election. So you're breaking the law. That seems to be the thing to do in our society with the administration that we've had and everything else. So lawlessness, there's a spirit of lawlessness, and it's got into you. You break the law. Well, we really want to have computers. Why? So you can control the elections.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you, members of the Assembly and Madam Mayor. I am here today. Why me? I come in to do my volunteer work and come into training after being on vacation, and open the box, and here is what amounts to a scanner with a mini computer attached to it in the line and an antenna on it. And I'm wondering to myself, why does it need an antenna when it's only got to send the message 2 feet? So I get to looking at it, I open it up, and all of a sudden stuff starts displaying on my smart TV. All right, so I get curious about what it is. And there'll be somebody get up and speak about that later. But the original ordinance does say it's hand count only. And I understand that there was second ordinance passed allowing these machines to be purchased and used in our elections. Had we known about that, we would have been here en masse testifying once again against it. So my understanding is that it was because people didn't trust us, the bosses, to transport the ballots from whatever polling station it was back to the borough building? Well, after completion of my volunteer work and doing what I was asked to do, two of my team brought those ballots back to the borough building, just exactly like you were afraid that somebody would stop and meddle with them. Had nothing to do with these boxes. You already hired people, you paid double, you paid for the boxes, you paid for the computer, you paid for everything else, and then you paid us to count. It makes no sense. There was no reason for it whatsoever. In my understanding, it was all because two people convinced a third one that we, the citizens, could not be trusted with our own elections. I have the tape. I have what was said on the Assembly Chamber floor. So, I can't demand you do anything. I can't force anything, but I would like for you to do what was right. And let's recount this. All right, all of it by hand. Okay, and that's all I've got to say.
Thanks, Tom. Lee Norman?
Hi, my name's Lee Norman. I'm from Wasilla. I'm pretty terrible at speaking, so bear with me here. This is also about the little machines. The ordinance was worded for removing the machines, which was successful. However, it seems it created a vacuum as far as convenience goes, and the computers, well, they're referenced to as these little sticks, which I guess isn't necessarily wrong, but they were full-on computers. The proposed counters that would go brrr, and they were said in the original meeting that they would be just like paper counters, not scanners. The computers hooked up to the scanners, like I said, they're full-blown little computers, and I don't necessarily have a problem with foreign computers or something. Like, I love Lenovo computers, but these devices, the little Melee computers, they are only China manufactured. You can only download the operating system, the drivers, off of a Google and Microsoft link to their personal Google Drive. None of the software that you can get from the manufacturer, which is a Chinese website. Where was I going with that? Long story short, it doesn't seem very secure. I don't know if these devices need any sort of certification to be in direct line with reading our ballots from a scanner, especially in the, I mean, we want to get rid of these machines, but we have devices that are actually probably way less secure because they're a lesser known manufacturer. They don't post updates as often, like as Dominion, let's say. I guess, long story short, if I could make a recommendation, is just revisit the ordinance to restore some faith, and at least with being machine free, or at least address our concerns of these not being secure. Like I said, I think they're way less secure than Dominion machines were. They're that off the shelf. I trust my neighbors to count more than any machine. So I suppose that's all. I hope that made sense.
Thank you. Jan Norman? What?
I think it might be Jen.
Jen. Oh, I know her. Hi.
Hi, thank you for letting us talk tonight. I sent you guys an email on November 4th to talk about the scanners that we found out were attached to or that we're going to be using for the hand counting. I was really surprised about that. Back when we first heard about this suggestion to get rid of the machines, we were all really excited that we were going to be doing just hand counting. We're really happy about that. And then when I came in for the hand count training, we're told to pull out this box and set it up on our table and get it set up and turn on the main power on the device itself, on the scanner, and then reach down in the carrying case and turn on the little black box. And it was not explained to us then that that was a little PC stick, a personal computer stick. So I was turned off by that. I was really disappointed that, here again, we're using a machine, a device, when we said we were going to do just hand counting only and that we were going to get rid of all the machines. So going on from that, I was listening to the different meetings because I wanted to find out where this conversation about the devices started. And the earliest that I could find was probably back in late 22, where the topic came up, and then the suggestion was to carry on the topic in January. So then I went to January, and I found on January 17th, 2023, the meeting talking about the devices. And I was really surprised at how many people were worried that the hand counters were going to cheat. I am shocked. You guys have no trust in people. You've got to have trust in your people if you're going to have a successful support system. And right now you guys are lacking the support because you're not holding up your end of the deal. We want to hand count, and everyone that I worked with was perfect. Everyone did really good. And we were all talking about things that we saw. And what I suggest is that we have more faith in the people that volunteer to hand count and less faith in the machines. Every machine, and even your IT department said, every machine is hackable. And so I just ask that we reconsider this. Let's approach it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Al?
Yeah, hi, my name's Al Strawn. Disclosure, Estelle is my daughter, and Alex up in the planning department's my son. So they don't know what I'm going to say, and they don't necessarily agree with it, so don't hold it against them. I also was railroaded into helping the hand count at the last minute. I went to the training. I had no idea what was involved, and I was actually very impressed. I fortunately was paired up with a couple ladies that had some really good experience, and I think we did a good job. I was also part of the group that started at 4 o'clock and got home at about 5:30 the next morning. And that's my concern, is I think that the people that I've been involved with, I think, are all acting in good faith, and they were doing a good job. But I'll tell you, 13 hours of thumbing through ballots, it opens up room for error. And I felt like a neighbor of mine that had an old tractor, and it kept breaking down on him, and he got mad about it. And so he decided, well, I'm just going to plow my 40 acres with a mule and a plow. And they both died in the process. I think we took a real step back. There are machines. I know there's local utilities that use them. There are machines all over the country. And I know there's people that are upset about the integrity of our elections. I believe we need to have honest elections. We need to have a very sound process. But I encourage you to look at that ordinance, not with the idea of getting rid of all the machines, but actually finding a better process. The only way this process is going to work in the future, in my view, is if our turnout goes down, not up. If we keep growing, this process is not going to work, or it's at least not going to work very well. There are honest people they're going to make honest mistakes doing it the way you're doing it with high volumes that we had this last election. So I just encourage you, I don't sell machines, I'm not an expert on it, I'm not a big computer geek or any of that stuff, but this was like taking a step back to the 1960s or something, the way we're doing this. And I don't think that's what our borough should be about. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the people that signed up. Now I will, John, you headed this way. So anyone that would like to testify, you'll be giving 3 minutes, whether you signed up or not, so.
Good afternoon. My name is John Miller. Said my name this time. First of all, I just want to thank you all for serving on the Borough Assembly. I know that you've made some sacrifices in your life to do it, so I want to thank you. I was a ballot counter up at Hatcher's Pass precinct. It was a very busy one. We had just under 1,400 ballots to count, and for the most part, it went very well. Everything balanced, everything was correct, everything was double-checked, triple-checked, and everything coordinated with the election workers that were there during the day. So I just want to thank the Borough Clerk's office. They did a really great job of organizing everything. It was a tremendous turnout, which is unprecedented so far, I think, in the Valley. And despite all the extra work and everything everybody put in, everything went really well. The only thing that we had a problem with was the ballot counters. They were very slow. And if it wasn't for the fact that we sorted all the ballots before we put them in the machine, when we had a glitch in the machine, we would have had to start all from scratch. But we already had our piles in 25, so we could recount them without having to backtrack all of the ballots. In future, and as far as the technical stuff about the machine, I'm not too much up on that. But in the future, if I were leading the ballot counting at the same Hatcher's Pass, I would just not use the machine. I would just start right away counting by hand, and I think we could have knocked maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes off the time we had. So we started at 8, and we were done counting at 1. So that's what, 5 hours? So that's not bad for, just under 1,400 ballots. And as far as, there's countries that count ballots by hand. Taiwan, France, I think Canada even. So it's just not a matter of machines. Hand counting works. It's just a matter, we just need to, plan for more turnout. So that's all I have to say. Thank you all.
Thanks, John. Anyone else that would like to address the assembly?
My name's Loy Thurman. I'd just like to thank y'all for being here, and which is your job. But I thank you for that, because it's not, it's always task involved. So I appreciate that. Thought the presentation and the training Lonnie did was great in the prep prior to it. I also was one of the ballot counters out in Big Lake, which was, I think, probably, John just surprised me now. I guess I thought we were number 1, but we might have been number 2 in the volume. So there were about 1,200 or in that vicinity. So those had to be counted 4 different times for the different elections that were involved, that were there. I just wanted to thank for our opportunity there, Lonnie, and being able to be one of the counters. I consider that a privilege and an honor. As far as how long it was involved and everything else, we didn't get in here till a little bit after 3 o'clock in the morning. we spent, I do agree with John, I've only heard one person say that the machines work properly. We spent an hour and a half just trying to get a tabulation to begin with of the machine working. It was constantly spitting out 2, 3, 4 in groups and different things. It was a perpetual problem. And after you've counted 300 or 400 or 600, then all of a sudden, what do? Start over again. So we had to make all kinds of adjustments and everything else. The machines, I'm sorry, but they're just a piece of crap. They don't work. They should be taken back. But also, I'm unhappy with y'all on the fact that y'all went ahead and voted against the people who said we don't want any machines, and then you put them in there. Because the final authority on what is correct or incorrect is the people's hand count. So then why do you then have a machine to then, in essence, be a psychological final authority when we, the people, are that final authority? It's a psychological game of saying that it's better. We could have done it. We lost an hour and a half just trying to deal with the machine before we could even do the counting. So we could have done the count to begin with and then started on the other, and it would have been a problem. The machines, basically, as I understand from a person who I was working with, the machines cost about $2,800. You can tell me further later on, about $2,800 a machine. I heard that you can get the same thing from the banks for about $600 to $800. But the problem is they don't work. So in my opinion, you should be able to get some kind of a money back on them or whatever, or say, get your people in here and get these things fixed. This is wrong. So I don't think each one of y'all want to go ahead and take a financial cut of $112,000 out of your budget or your salary, because it's a bummer. Can I have just a second more? Thank you. We do. I appreciate all your effort. I really do, honestly. But to understand that the people have to have that trust, it's a sincere problem. By the election that we just had, it's a very evident thing of the people's. We had probably 30% more in this election. So it's showing that people care and they want to change. So the hand count and having the people involved is a huge positive thing involved there. And it's not a step backwards. It's a step forward. Maybe we can be as progressive as France is. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to testify? Okay, Caleb, do we have anybody online? We do not have anybody online. So one last chance, anybody under audience participation? You can address the council, the assembly on any subject. It doesn't have to be just on elections or what's on the agenda. So if you have any subject that you would like to make the assembly aware of, you're welcome to testify. Okay, I don't see anybody else, so we'll close audience participation. The next item on our agenda is the Canvas Board report, and I'll turn it over to Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to applaud the Canvas Board. I figured out today that between all the two different boards in 11 days, they spent 1,068 man-hours to get the election done. It's a lot. They worked a lot. So I'm going to call you out by name if I can get you to stand up. Sorry, ladies. I know it's going to be your favorite time of the evening. I got Helen Milkey, Audra Godin, Marlon Miestas, Kay Peterson, Cindy Medberry, Marie Michelson, Mary Storrs, and Tanya Garrett. And I do want to say also that this was a very large election. There was a lot of work that went into this, and it wasn't just the Canvas Board, it was the clerk's office. Everything the Canvas Board looked at in reference to absentee and question had to be input into databases. That's what my office did, and they did a lot of work and a lot of overtime to get that done. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Helen Milkey to give the Canvas Board report.
Okay.
I'm trying. Just as a personal note, it's a privilege that I can participate and help out the campus board. And we learn, every one of us can say we learn a lot. We know what's behind the campus board, what we have been doing with all these different compartments and put them together. And we know, well, myself, I'm honest and I'm just doing my best. So just have some highlights of what we experience, what we find out. For the precinct, total is 27,408 voters. Absentee person, 5,291. And question total is 1,701. And early voting, 12,631. And there's no count, 684. So the total number is 46,347. And the voters out of the registered voters number is 48.22%. And it's pretty high to me. We as a board, we justify the bars, we call it the ballot accountability report from early voting, absentee, precinct, site, and question ballot, and by mail. So there's many different compartments, put them all together and verify and justify it. And if it's not balanced, and we did research and recount the stubs, the spoiled ballots, the question ballots, the special need ballots, and we kind of register signatures. And we've been doing sometimes over and over to make suggestions, and there's some, maybe just like few vote discrepancies, and we just try and find out and make suggestions. And I just say, you know, we are trying our best to do a very thorough job to find why there's a missing ballots, something like that. I will highlight a few precincts issues there that we find out. There's 9 precincts. There's more signatures than ballots used. Precinct 26,350, there's 2 ballots issued and not returned. And plus there's some kind of hand count issues. So we just match all these numbers and find out what's the issues. Another precinct, 27,405, and there's 2 guys. We took a lot of time to figure that out, and we also had the attorney to come and explain it to us. So there's 2 guys have the same first name. Let me see what I can get the puzzle out. 2 guys have the same first name, so they all need a question ballot. So this first guy got a ballot and went to vote and came back, hey, and then he put it in one of the envelopes, and then left. And then the second guy, who's the same last name, came back. The second voters, hey, where's my envelopes? So the first voters had his ballot put in the wrong envelopes. And so the second guys came outside. So he needed to fill out another envelopes. So we'll just figure out, okay, whose is the, we took a lot of times and we consult the attorney and we make a best decisions. Another one, precinct 28,450 had a question ballot from the borough, of course, go into the black box instead of putting in an envelope. And luckily, the canvass board find that he voted a ballot that was qualified to vote. You know, you have different district and colors. And another one, precinct 28,465, there was a ballot issued, but obviously that voters didn't sign it. So we kind of need to figure that out. And a precinct 3605, there's one more ballot was issued than the signatures. So we try to match every signatures. There's a couple of other things. The hand count teams on the District 3 race did not put number 35 for the totals. And they appropriately put a 3, forget the 5. So it's like, well, the number is not matching. It's like, it's supposed to be 35. That's one of the human error. Hand count teams called in at Willow, precinct 3605. They have 3 color at their precincts. So the mint, yellow, and gray. So the hand count teams call in the totals for the gray, but forgot to include the totals for the yellow, the 1 ballot for yellow and 10 ballots for the mint. So we did the correction on that. Because of the issues of, we have both election at the same time, the state and the borough. So, and also there's a lot of higher turnout. So there's a few things I would like to highlight that. For the absentee, there's 5 state ballots in the borough envelopes. You open the borough envelope, oh, it's not ours. And so we send it to the state. The question ballot, there's 1 state ballot in the borough envelopes, and we send it to the state. And there's 2 envelopes contain both the borough and the state ballots. That it happens. It's like, you don't know until you open it. So it's like, whoop, that's 2. So there is a little bit, confusions, voters, congestions, and giving them directions, sometimes kind of not really clear. The ballots that's not counted, which came from the state, it is the state, with no names associated with, different things. Just no name with the ballots. So how do we know who's the voters? So the 2 yellow ballot from District 7, the 2 pink from District 4, 3 tans color, and 1 orange color. So this is from the state. And we also find out there's 2 double voters issues. On election day, there's 1 voter voted question ballot at 1 precinct and voted regular at their registered precinct. And 1 voter's got a by-mail ballot and went to her precinct and swore to the officials that they burned the ballot. And the officials believe them. Oh, I burned my ballot. I'll give you 1, So believe them and let them vote regular poll, vote the regular ballot. But that's, and she had mailed her by-mail ballot to us a couple of days earlier. So we just kind of double check everything if there's any double voters. 1 person voted absentee and again voted on the election day. 1 voter voted early and returned a by-mail ballot. So, we watch and we have the computer check all these possibilities. And there's one thing the note was saying, the different training for the early voting, or for the early vote officials. And this one day end up so at the early voting, we use the computer, and sometimes the officials would click wrong voters and find out that it's the different names. Sometimes they're same names for the 2 voters, and they forget to delete it. And another one is didn't correct the bar at the end of the day. So that's make a little bit issues on that. But we try our best to be diligent to recheck, and make our conclusion. So I have a few things that want to highlight from the election. we were told that at the access to the built elementary precincts, which is precinct 25305, and we were told that the voters needed to go through the back door to get into the building to vote. And some elderly people were feeling very frustrated and discouraged to walk around to the back of the building. So maybe this is one thing that we can pay attention and see whether an improvement can be made. And the police also was called to escort a voter from early voting site at MSB. And I'm not sure which day, but that's one incident that came up. And also there's suggestions that to consider to change the election day, the borough election day, and not to share with the state election, or maybe work with the city election. Another incident was the state has a poll watcher assigned at the Lazy Mountain precinct, who also worked as one of our hand count worker there. So this might be something that we need to consider, or we all need to consider about looking into, so it may not make voters or poll workers feel uncomfortable. We also want to submit to you to add a little bit more or encourage more precinct workers, and because of the high turnout, I think most of the precincts have just only 4 workers. Maybe we should add 1 more or 2. And as we were talking about the hand count, there's quite a few people testified. Hand count for early voting, they staffed 4 teams of 3 workers on Monday at about 3 p.m. and they worked till next day, 5 a.m., about 14 hours to count the early voters' ballot. And that is about 14 hours to count through the night so that they can complete the task. So that was all my note. We appreciate, the assembly members. We, as a campus board, we certify and find what we can find and be trying to be diligent as possible and find out that the statements be true, accurate. So before we ask you to close and certify the election, if there's any questions, or some of us can answer it.
No?
Or clarify
I guess
or
not.
questions. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think there's any questions, so thank you. And thank you all for your hard work.
So we will submit to you that more, we appreciate all the works and the dedication for our clerks, staff, and Miss Lonnie, Estelle, and wherever Teresa is. And they have been helping us hours, days and nights, hours and hours. And without them, we really cannot do, we don't know what to do. There's a lot of things. I just want to tell them thank you, and they deserve applause. Thank you.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Just to add something real quick for especially assembly members who've not sat here while we've had an election with the state of Alaska. When the state of Alaska canvasses, a lot of the times they separate that ballot from the envelope. So once that ballot is separated from the envelope, they can't match it back up with a name. We ended up with 8 ballots that way because we don't know that voter's name. The way we canvass, we don't even take it out of the envelope until we know what's inside. So there's 8 ballots that we could not count because we cannot associate it with a name. So I want to make sure the assembly understands that. There's 8 ballots that we can't count. So we tracked all of that. The state ends up giving us ballots as they're starting to open things and they find our ballots. At this point, I don't know if they may find more borough ballots if they haven't opened everything. I do not know. So those are, we, at the early voting sites at MSB and the borough, there's been one-offs, meaning maybe, I'm going to go with Division of Elections. Maybe one day we had one more person sign in that they voted, but maybe not a ballot issued, or reversed. Maybe we had a pink ballot issued with no voter associated with it because it ended up inside a state envelope. At this point, I don't know if maybe those 8 ballots may be part of that issue, but I can't 100% tell you because I don't know who they belong to. So I wanted to make clear that so the assembly understands there's 8 ballots we cannot count because we can't associate it with names.
Okay. So do I have a motion to certify the November 5th, 2024 regular borough election?
I move to certify the November 5th, 2024 regular borough election.
Okay, is there discussion of the assembly? Is there any objection? Okay, hearing none, then the election has been certified. And Madam Clerk?
I'm going to have one of you come down at one time, and Madam Mayor, I'm going to swear you in first.
Okay.
And if I can get you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
Edna DeVries,
having been duly elected
have been duly elected
to the office of
to the office of
the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Mayor
Matanuska-Susitna Borough Mayor
with the term beginning
with a term beginning
November 25th, 2024.
November 25th, 2024.
Do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and that I will honestly,
that I will honestly,
faithfully, and impartially
faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as mayor
as mayor
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Amen.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If I can get you to go ahead and sign this right here. Assemblymember Fawnoff, if I can have you come on down. Thank you, ma'am. And if I can get you to raise your right hand and repeat after me, sir. I state your name. Say I, Dmitry Fawnoff,
I, Dmitry Fonov,
having been duly elected
having been duly elected
to the office of
to the office of
the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Assembly
Matanuska-Susitna Borough Assembly
with a term beginning
with a term beginning
November 25th, 2024,
November 25th, 2024,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
Constitution of the States of Alaska,
and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and that I will honestly,
that I would honestly,
faithfully, and impartially
faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as Assembly member
as Assembly member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. If I can get you to go ahead and sign right here. Assemblymember Bernier, you're going to have a hard time repeating me. Thank you. Sound like me a couple weeks ago. You got to raise your right hand. So, okay. You can put that down if you like. Repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Ron Bernier,
having been duly elected
have been duly elected
to the office of
to the office of
the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Assembly
Matanuska-Susitna Assembly
with a term beginning
with a term beginning
November 25th, 2024.
November 25th, 2024.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the State of
the
Alaska,
Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and that I will honestly,
and I will honestly,
faithfully, and impartially
faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties as
discharge my duties as
Assembly Member
Assembly Member
to the best of my ability.
to my best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And if I can get you to sign right here. Thank you, sir. To the mayor and assembly also, since Assembly Member McKee is not here, we can swear her in another date.
So we're now at assembly comments. Any parting comments, Mr. Attorney?
Nope, just congratulations to the members for retaining your seats and look forward to working with you the next 4 years.
Deputy Mayor, parting comments, sir?
I want to thank everybody for coming out. and most of all, thank you, Lord, for everything you do to us, for us in the valley. Thank you for your love, your kindness, your all the blessings that you bestow on us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Assemblyperson Hale, parting comments?
I just want to thank the Canvas Board for all their hard work and the clerk and all her staff for all their continuing hard work. Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, parting comments? No? Assemblyperson, sir?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that made the election successful, the clerk's office, the canvas board, all the vote counters. Congratulations to everyone that was elected this go around. And I also wanted to say I felt great pride in our community for seeing out.
Assemblyperson Gamble, parting comments?
Thank you, Mayor. No, likewise, I just want to thank staff for their hard work and dedication, to the canvassing board and all the poll workers that were out there, made this election successful. And congratulations to the candidates, those who have not ever had to campaign and run for office. It is grueling, especially in Alaska when it gets cold and it starts getting dark outside. So congratulations on your victories, and look forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Assemblyperson Fama, parting comments?
Thank you everyone that came, took time, and I appreciate all of you being here and all the comments you've made. And I think we're going to learn and put some of that knowledge into to see if proper changes need to be made. Madam Mayor, I want to congratulate you and
Thank you.
Mr. Bernier. Congratulations, and I want to say it's a humbling experience to be here, and I'm going to continue to serving the best of my ability. Thank you.
I too want to thank the Canvas Board. Thank you all for your work, as well as for any or all of you in the audience that did participate, either as a clerk and or a counter. And also for, even though, as you heard tonight, there are some questions, and I'm sure the Assembly will be addressing those, as well as the administration. And so we appreciate you coming out, and look forward to, yeah.
I do have something, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right.
I
No,
just
you
thought of
had your
something. I
turn and you
apologize.
went-
I apologize. I just wanted to let the assembly know that there were requests to have more election officials at precincts. and requests in reference to have more hand counters. We used everybody we had. We didn't have any more. I would have loved to had more people at the early voting hand counting. We didn't have any more people. So it'd be great if more people, the people that do volunteer their time is fantastic and it's so appreciated, but we need more people to pull off elections like that.
And there has been some discussion that will continue. Right now, our code says that we cannot start counting ballots until 8 p.m. on election day. And that is a local code, and so that may be one of the ways we will view that. It'll be, of course, up to the assembly to decide that, and up to all of you to come and testify whether you think that would be a good idea or not. But with that, we wouldn't have, hopefully, the 1 to 5 a.m. reporting taking place. But again, thank you all for what you've done, and let's eat cake.
Cake is served in the side room over here for anybody that wants any.
You will now be disconnected.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Synexus Conference Manager. Please enter. Joining conference.
Outgoing audio check. Outgoing audio check. Incoming audio check. Incoming audio check.
I hate to be this person, but the party's over. It's time to start the next assembly meeting. You can continue to eat your cake, but okay, I'm going to go ahead and call our 6 PM, which is now 6:05, to order, please. Thank you for those in the audience to allow us to be 5 minutes late. And for those, I think there's probably, for those who weren't here at the 5 o'clock meeting, I think there might still be cake in there. So if you want to go grab a piece of cake or something. But anyway, I think everybody's here. All righty. So I'll call this meeting to order at 6:06 PM. This is a regular meeting for Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I will. Tim Hale.
Here.
Stephanie Nowers. Here. Dee McKee.
I am here.
Maxwell Sumner.
Here.
Bill Gamble.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff. Well, he was here.
Well, I know.
Ron Bernier. Here. Thank you. Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anything any of the members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. Don't see, hear anything. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, don't see those. So,
Madam Mayor.
okay.
You know, Dimitri's here.
Oh, okay. So Assemblyperson Fonoff has joined us. So hearing none, then the agenda is approved as presented. So if you all please stand, and Deputy Mayor, you can't talk, can you? Assemblyperson Fonoff, will you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda are minutes to be approved, but we do not have any minutes that have been presented. We do not have any reports of correspondence. Agency reports, I don't see anybody from the cities. Don't see anybody from the school district, but I see somebody from the state of Alaska.
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
members of the Assembly, Todd Smolden, Governor's Office in Matsu Valley. First, I wanted to say congratulations to all the re-elected Assembly members and Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
It's, I don't know why you would do what you do, but I appreciate you doing it. So it's a lot easier to be in a position where I am, where working for someone who is an elected official. So as a Matsu resident, I wanted to just thank everybody who was involved in the elections, clerk, canvassing board, all of the local Matsu residents who stepped up to watch polls, work at polls, hand count. I know there's a lot of discussion when borough election takes place at the same time as the state and federal election, but I was doing a little looking at the numbers, and in the borough elections in Fairbanks and the Kenai Peninsula, they had low 20s voter turnout. Anchorage had about 30% voter turnout, and Juneau had 38. All of them vote off the date when state and federal elections are held. In the Matsu Valley, we had about 50% voter turnout. So while I know it's complicated, I guess what I would ask again as a Matsu resident is for people to step up and help out, because the fact that our voting day is the same as the state and federal election means that a larger percentage of our residents are participating in the democratic process. So, and as a former social studies teacher, I think that's a pretty cool thing. As far as the governor's office goes, right now we are spending a lot of time with looking at legislation, policy changes, regulation changes, things like that. So if you have any questions, you want to give feedback on those items, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to have conversations with anyone and everyone. The other thing that we're looking at is the budget. And if you're paying attention to the price of oil, you've probably noticed that it's about $10 less than what the budget was projected to be, which means that state revenue is significantly less at this current time projected than it was last year and moving forward. That's not great news. That's not great news for capital projects, other spending items that the borough might want or other entities in the Matsu Valley are going to be asking for. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the available revenues and what people's desires are. I guess the good news is on the federal level, we seem to have an administration and potentially a Congress that is more favorable to some of the things that Alaska would want as far as natural resource development, infrastructure, things like that. So there might be some more opportunity for federal funding that could make up for some of the lack of state funding. But just kind of my, I guess, amateur observations of the climate when it comes to budget and funding this coming year. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but as I said, I'm always willing to talk to people and talk to elected officials. So please reach out if you have any questions, but I could try to take some now if you do have any now.
Sure. Yes. Assemblyperson Nowers, go ahead.
Just wondering if it's true that the tunnel under Kinnick Arm is called the Canal officially?
Someone I know very close to me is trying to coin that term. I don't know if the canal will actually be built, but it is an interesting thought. And there is a study that's going to take place. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, even though the borough's done a pretty good job of kind of highlighting it. But the projected cost for Glen Highway improvements plus, the idea of a Wasilla bypass totals about $1.5 billion. And some kind of infrastructure on the west side of the Mat-Su would cut that Glen Highway traffic almost in half. And it would also reduce the bottleneck that occurs in Wasilla every day during rush hour in the mornings and afternoons. So I think it's definitely needed infrastructure. I don't know what it would be, but if it's a tunnel, I want it to be called the canal.
Any other harassments to Todd? Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, in regard to the 50% voter participation in the borough, several of us and some of us in this room got out and put out a lot of shoe leather getting that petition out to make sure that that happened. And I never dreamed that it would be that much, because I think when I ran, it's like 9%, and you work just as hard for 9% as you do for 50%. So that is really good. Thanks for that.
Well, through Assemblymember McKee to Madam Mayor, again, I would just say I agree that having higher voter turnout, it should be the goal, but I also recognize how difficult that is for Madam Clerk and others who are participating. So it's a real opportunity for people to step up and help out, and hopefully we'll have more help next time that rolls around in 2 years. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions to Todd? No, I guess not, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming all the time for us. I understand there has not been a joint assembly and school board committee meeting. Any public relations report from the assembly? Okay. As maybe some of you have been getting notices from Alaska Municipal League, AML, their meeting is going to be the second week in December. And their board of directors has a position for the Mat-Su Borough. And Stephanie has held that position, and I guess she hasn't decided whether she wants to run or not, but we wanted to make sure that any of the assembly or even the mayor, if they want to run for that position, it does require, or maybe requires too strong a word, but strongly encourages you to, if you become elected to the board of directors, that you attend the 3 meetings, the one in February, the one in the summer, and then the one in December. Plus, if you are interested, reach out to the mayor, because unless you're going to pay your own expenses, if you want the borough to pay the expenses, there's a form that you need to fill out, and it has to have a vote of the assembly. So that would have to be done on our December 3rd meeting. And the time to get items in to be on the December 3rd is Friday. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah. So it would be time for, now if you don't want the assembly to contribute to paying for your expenses, I think that's the way Assemblyperson Nowers has handled it, then you don't need to worry about that report. But if you do want it to be paid for by the borough, you will need to fill out that one page. And if you don't have access to that, either reach out to me or go on the website for AML, or the clerk can also get it for you. Is there any questions? Does everybody understand? Is a term for what, 3 years, Assemblyperson Nowers?
It's 2 years.
2 years.
And I would just add those 3 meetings, they often have a remote option that you can attend. So that makes, because some of them are Kodiak or some other
Right.
places.
The summer one was Kodiak, and then, of course, the one in February is always Juneau.
Yep.
And so,
And I'm willing to serve again, but I'm also willing if somebody else is interested in that.
Okay, all right. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Brown, you have a report for us,
I
sir?
do, Madam Mayor. Thank you. So as Thanksgiving approaches, I wanted to share a quick note of gratitude that came from a resident. And this was, these were law enforcement folks, so they're familiar with this whole idea of first responding. So I'm just going to read the note. It said, "I'm reaching out to express my heartfelt gratitude and admiration for the professionalism and compassion demonstrated by your team of firefighters and EMS at a recent motor vehicle collision. My fiance and I happened to be off duty when we responded to the scene on this day at the intersection of KGB and Clapp, where they witnessed firsthand the remarkable efforts that our team displayed. The firefighters and EMS personnel who arrived on site showed the utmost respect, genuine concern, and deep compassion towards those involved in the accident, as well as towards the witnesses and both of us. They maintained a calm and comforting presence throughout, handling each aspect of the situation with exceptional professionalism and grace. I've rarely seen such humility and dedication during times of crisis and distress. As a member of the law enforcement community, I'm often on the responding side rather than observing it, and I was pleasantly impressed by the care and sincerity your team provided. Though I'm sure this level of compassion is part of their daily routine, it was profoundly meaningful to experience it from the perspective of those being aided. Thank you. Their kindness and professionalism reflect highly upon your department and the values it upholds." So I just wanted to share that with the assembly. So you know, these are the things that happen every day that you don't see or hear about. So I just thought that was a great note I would share this evening. Shifting gears, the annual fishing season summary meeting is coming up on Thursday, December 5th at 5 p.m. The Borough's Fish and Wildlife Commission is hosting its annual fishing season summary meeting with the ADF&G. Howard Delo and Larry Engel will also not be applying for reappointment to the commission at the end of the year. So they have served on the Fish and Wildlife Commission for 14 and 18 years, and we're hoping to honor their service that day. So we have requested the clerk advertise for 3 or more in the event. We have a quorum present because we already have 2 assembly members on that commission, and the mayor's planning to attend. So I just wanted to call that to your attention. They've done remarkable work for the borough over many, many years. So that may be one of those last opportunities to recognize them publicly. Third topic, online sales. Just following up with the assembly, you directed me to move forward with online land sales to improve competition and increase revenue generated from these sales. In last week's weekly post, I provided a few key takeaways from our last sale. I'm not going to put those on the record tonight because we shared them last week. Bottom line, I just wanted to call your attention to that, and I really think that that was great direction. The sales, we had like one, for example, that had 83 bids on it. Now, that was a foreclosure sale. We're actually going out for a competitive land sale. That's online now. So I just wanted to kind of close the loop with the assembly because that's direction you provided for staff to execute. And my hat's off to Jill Ersick. She kind of set up the system and figured out how to make that work for us, and we'll continue to learn and refine that. But she did a remarkable job getting that sale done. So my hat's off and appreciation to her and our land management team for making that happen. Now, with that said, I'm going to invite Dave Griffin up. He's our Port Operations Director. Our Port Operations Manager. We would ask him to give an update on Port McKenzie. It's been a little while since we had a touch point on the port. So this is an opportunity to kind of share some updates with you and allow you to engage and ask questions. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Dave.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Good evening, Mayor and Assembly
evening.
members. My name is David Griffin. I'm the Port Operations Manager at Port McKenzie. Port McKenzie is as we all know, it's a municipal-owned port. It includes a port district of approximately 9,000 acres. In addition to the uplands, we also own the tied and submerged lands. We have about a 15-acre wharf that includes a barge dock. Let's see where this goes.
Sorry, give me a sec. Is it working now?
There we go.
You got the clicker in front of you.
Okay, thank you. It's got about a 15-acre wharf, a 500-foot long barge dock. We've got a pier that's approximately 475 feet long, 1,200-foot long deep draft dock. We also have what we call a bow ramp, so you can actually pull a barge with a ramp up to a earthen ramp, revetment, drop the ramp, and do roll-on, roll-off. In this video that we're seeing here, we're offloading salt from Mexico on a bulk carrier. And we're also loading up some Connex containers on SeaTac Marine's barge. That's a 300-foot long barge. That particular barge operation is in support of a proof of principle that the Army was doing. The Army's been evaluating Port McKenzie as a potential location for discharge of different military supplies. Then you see the crane coming off. That's the bow ramp there, that earthen revetment, do roll on roll off. That project was in support of wind turbine maintenance at Fire Island with Cook Inlet Regional Incorporated. So just kind of wanted to show you that. It's kind of interesting. This may have been the first time we had all 3 berths full at one time, which is kind of cool because each of those operators were independent of one another. So we literally had the Army, a local contractor moving salt, and a native corporation using Port McKenzie all at once, and that was back in October. We are a small industrial port, but we have a lot of opportunity and the future is very bright. In terms of operations, I do have my staff here today. If you guys wouldn't mind, I would like to introduce Corrine Lindfors. She's my assistant. And then we've got Greg Snell. He's my operations and maintenance person. Greg spends most of his time actually at the port. He's sort of I refer to him as my boots on the ground. Earlier this month, I had left the state to go visit family outside and got a call that there was a company that's been exploring some activity over at West Susitna. They wanted to come out to the port, and they brought over a delegation from Korea. And these two stepped up to the plate and facilitated that. So I just wanted to acknowledge them for that and say thank you. I put a lot of trust in my staff, and they do a wonderful job. So thank you, guys. And then, in the big scheme of things, the borough, this is our port, we are connected to the world by water, and we do business internationally. I just want to point that out. We have this deep draft dock. Obviously, we're 2 miles from Anchorage. We are on a well-established shipping lane. And so in terms of like future growth and development, in terms of business, I think we're going to continue to see interest at our port, and I do see our port growing. One of the reasons that we are growing is because there is a lot of activity occurring at some of the other ports, some congestion going on, and folks are starting to look at Port McKenzie as sort of a plan B, so to speak, sort of a pressure relief valve. And ironically, a lot of people have heard of Port McKenzie, but they've never been out there. And when they show up and they walk around, they take a look and they see the potential, they start to understand like, wow, this is a very valuable asset. As we are a young state, we are a young port, and as the state continues to develop with resource extraction, whether it's minerals, materials like coal, timber, all roads kind of lead to Port McKenzie. We are, as we talked about this tunnel project, we've got West Susitna access, we got the Port McKenzie rail extension, we've got private property. We're continuing to see growth and interest in this area, and I don't see that waning. We move along. We do have some challenges. I would say at the end of the day, some of that comes down to capabilities. We don't have necessarily equipment. Most of the folks that come out and use the port are bringing their own equipment. We are working on acquiring a crane through a grant that we received. That's been a slow process, but we are moving into the point in time where we can start moving forward the purchasing process. We do a lot of outreach and networking. I mean, today I was hosting the Alaska Railroad at the port. Yesterday we had some folks from the Army out there. Monday I got the Coast Guard coming out. So there's a lot of moving parts at any given day. As Corrine and Greg can attest, our schedules are always shifting. Probably our biggest accomplishment of the summer was this pile sleeve protection project, where we actually wrapped 32 piles with these heavy gauge steel sleeves, 38 feet long. They weighed 10,000 pounds apiece. This was a result of a grant that we were awarded from the Economic Development Administration, federal grant, EDA, for asset management. And so we're pretty happy. This project was very successful. It finished 3 weeks early. Everybody was very happy with it. And so by putting these sleeves onto the deep draft dock piles, this will extend the life of our dock by, at a minimum, 25 years, but most likely 50 years. And yeah, that's about it. I did want to build in some time for some Q&A, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer
Anyone have
them.
a question? Yeah, Assemblyperson Sumner, go ahead. Or were you pointing to somebody? Were
I think
you trying?
Ron has, Mr. Bernier has hand up first.
Oh, okay. So Deputy Mayor, you need at least the mic on.
Back on the challenges, the building, if you go back, relationship building, can you tell us?
Through the mayor, Assemblymember Bernier. Yes, relationship building. You know, as I'd mentioned, we're on the water. We're connected by water. There's a lot of trade. I mean, 80% of goods and services that come into the state that are on the rail belt or the road system service 90% of the population that lives on the rail system or the road system. And so a lot of that cargo is coming into Seward, Anchorage, of course, Homer, and what we have been doing is outreach with, like, for instance, the Southwest Pilots Association. They're the ones that bring the larger ships up the inlet, and just making them understand, give them a better understanding of our capabilities. We do have a seat on the Cook Inlet Harbor Safety Committee, and so by having a seat on that committee, working with those folks, we're getting a better understanding of resource allocation, who's good at doing what, which ports are more capable than others, and things like that. Also with relationship building, it's just the networking, building our relationships with the local community out there. We've got very good neighbors. As I mentioned, working with the railroad, trying to get a better understanding of their perspective and vice versa, our perspective. And also the port in Anchorage. We do and once a year we've been doing a state of the ports where we get together and just talk about, like, what projects we have going on, what projects they have going on, and vice versa. And I do want to point out that, like, sometimes there's this sense that we might be trying to take business from one port or the other. That's really not the situation. We're unique in the type of activity that we bring in. We're more industrial resource related, break bulk cargo. We don't do containers. We're not doing petroleum. At present, we haven't been handling any activity with, like, a fishing industry or tourism industry, things like that. So far, we've been pretty much an industrial port, focusing on bulk commodities.
Yeah, Assemblyperson Sumner, go ahead.
Well, that last part kind of answered my question a little bit, but the scale of the Port of Alaska recent fee increases, do you see that pushing any business to Port McKenzie?
Through the mayor, Assemblymember Sumner. I don't see that happening right away. I do think that people are going to start taking a closer look around at other options. We have, just this summer, we ended up doing business with 4 new barge operators. And one of the reasons that we ended up getting that business was because pricing and congestion in some of the other ports. And so we ended up doing some business with some operators out of Homer. And we also did some business with some operators out of Ketchikan and then Seattle-Tacoma area. We do not specialize in containerized freight like they do in Anchorage. And so, I think at some point in the future, there might be a desire of some shippers to take a closer look at Port McKenzie and see about maybe putting a gantry crane or something like that on the west side. I think it makes sense from a resiliency perspective to consider that. But marine facilities, marine infrastructure is very expensive. It's very expensive to maintain. And so we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I personally look at Port McKenzie, it's a young port. I mean, technically we were built in 2000. And then in 2004, we got the deep draft dock. So we got our first large ship in 2005. So next year we'll hit the 20-year mark in terms of, like, our deep draft dock. So we're still young. I think we've gone through some growing pains over the years, but I think we've come out the other side wiser, more mature. And so we're taking a close look at our business opportunities. Obviously, there's a lot of activity in the west side of Cook Inlet, coal, minerals, timber. DOT has prioritized the 22-mile access road to get across the Big Sioux. I think when that happens, we're going to see all sorts of opportunities open up. So I think we'll just have to wait and see. In terms of like immediate changes or results of the tariff increases over at the port in Anchorage, they're not necessarily a large, they don't really facilitate a lot of barge berths, so they're mainly tote, Matson, petroleum, some military activity, some cement. So I think what we're going to see in terms of increased growth is as a result of congestion in Homer, congestion in Kodiak, and congestion in Seward, primarily Seward.
Do you have follow-up, sir?
No, thank you.
Any Assemblyperson Fauna?
First of all, I want to say thank you so much every time I go there, and you've always been very attentive and showing us, educating us, me personally, and it's been a great experience. And you know, from my perspective, and I think the rest of the body, you have our support, and whatever we can do to help, we're always here, and we're always one of my favorite parts when you come here and update us. Can you give us an update? You said I remember you said the grant for the crane was issued a while back. What is the status, and when do you expect that to arrive, and what's the time frame like, and how that's
Through the mayor, Assemblymember Fonoff. We did receive our letter of award, approximately $950,000 to purchase a crane. We are matching that, so our budget's around $1.2 million. When we first started discussing the use of or purchasing a crane and chased it through a grant process and was successful, we were looking at a smaller crane, and over time we've realized we need something a little bit larger. And so what we're doing at the moment is preparing to move forward with some sort of a request for proposal based on a little bit larger crane, and so I'm guessing, working with our grants coordinator Pam Graham and purchasing folks, we'd be looking at probably January to start working on purchasing of the crane. We've kind of been at this stage sort of wrapping up seasonal operations and kind of putting a bow on things and getting all of our invoicing taken care of and some reporting. And so now we're going to move into the next step is going to be starting to look at purchasing of the crane.
do you think it's possible to get it before next summer, or
it depends. We got to buy U.S. made source materials, got to buy new, depending if they've already got one sort of on the lot, so to speak. We could get one rather fast. But if they have to build it, then we'd be looking at a longer lead time, approximately a year.
and we can barge it right to our own port?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will be shipped directly to Port McKenzie, and
Yeah.
it will live there.
Yeah, I know when I'm next to you, on many times, people constantly calling, asking questions, and you take important calls, and it's always awesome to know that. But is there anything you or anyone else is doing to soliciting new business, actually reaching out and trying to get, I guess, maybe you said we're not really competing with Anchorage, but it's fine if we can get some business this way. I think we would appreciate it on the side of. So, is there any effort actively to solicit new business, I guess?
Yes, there is. One of the commodities that some folks have expressed interest in is through the mayor, have expressed interest in is fracking sand from China. And so right now, a lot of that sand comes through Seward. And Seward, like I'd mentioned, is getting congested. They've kind of retooled from exporting resources and kind of more focused on tourism, storage of vessels, repair, boat works, stuff like that. They have a dry berth. So we've been contacted within the last 2 months, and actually had a visitor from Texas come out and take a look at the port to evaluate its capability for importing fracking sand. And what they would want to do is potentially bring in 14,000 tons at a time, store it on site, and then move it up to the North Slope as needed. But we are missing some capabilities. Dry storage is huge. That's one of the reasons we do cement, is because we have 2 big warehouses on site. It's dry storage. It's not climate controlled or anything. It doesn't need to be. But I think if in the future we had some additional storage, we would see more interest in terms of some of these commodities, especially fracking sand, because as you know, the North Slope has got the Willow and Pica project going on, and There's going to be, the gentleman that came out to the port to visit would be looking at 7 to 10 years of import of sand. So there are opportunities like that for import. Otherwise, I think we would be looking at potential for steel pipe, the salt contract with the state. We're looking at that as an annual import of salt. Cement with quality asphalt and paving is probably an every other year activity.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee?
Yeah, well, I did quite a lot of looking into all this port stuff because I was so very much against it, but you have done amazing things. But I do want to know about the U.S. Geological Service folks did the dredging thing, saying this is going to be an ongoing problem. Is it a problem?
We, through the mayor, Assemblymember McKee, we do not have to dredge. One of the reasons that we don't have to dredge is the fact that the location of the port, which is the pink area in the red outline, is located where the Kinnick Arm source dumps into the upper inlet, and the landmass there necks down, and so all that water on the outgoing tide moves pretty fast. So it just naturally scours the channel. However, there are some shoals that are further out, like out near the mouth of the Sioux, out by Fire Island, Kinnick Arm Shoal in particular. There is a navigational channel there that has been identified by USGS and NOAA. And so every 15 to 20 years or so, they go into that navigational channel and they do scoop out sediment and do a little bit of dredging just to make sure that the vessels are able to get in and out.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Any other questions from the Assembly? Go ahead, sir. Oh.
You're done?
Good. Thank you.
Good. So I just want to close out with a couple things real quick. So we did get word back on the Creasy grant. That was a Federal Railroad Administration grant opportunity for the Port McKenzie Rail Extension Project. We were not successful. It was our first run at federalizing that project. What I will say has come out of that I think is positive is the Alaska Railroad Corporation is engaged. And I will say that's probably a first in many years. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow with ARC and Rep. McCabe. I see Senator Shower in the back of the room. So we're going to continue to pursue and chase that. We met with Senator Murkowski, I think 2 weeks ago. We brought that up and talked to her specifically about federal funding to support that rail extension project. So we're going to continue to push on that front. It's not uncommon for your first run at a federal grant, especially of that magnitude, to be unsuccessful. PIDP, which is the Port Infrastructure Development Program, we also found out we did not win that one. This was the second year we've taken a run at that. We'll continue to pursue that. That's to expand on some of that cargo handling capabilities that we talked about. And really where that connection is, and the challenge that we're probably going to have to solve at our level, and we'll be looking at it probably in the fiscal year 26 budget, is the barge ramp. We've got to get that across the finish line. It'll probably be largely complete with design next month. So we'll have some better estimates and whatnot. But Dave's talked about it, even some of the business from Seward and others, where they want to come in and dry dock and do maintenance and whatnot. If we don't have the ability to do that with a barge ramp, we're going to be limited in terms of what we can support in terms of activity. So that's something we're going to be looking hard at. You'll see more on that coming very soon. And then lastly, I would just close out and say, and I don't know if you want to speak to it, you know more than I do about it, Arctic Edge 25, and what that's going to mean. That's a large-scale DoD exercise based out of J-Bear, and there is activity planned for Port Mac. So I don't know if you could speak to that quickly.
Yeah, through the mayor, just real quick on that. So in August of 2025, pretty much the whole month of August, 3 to 4 weeks is what we're looking at. There will be a joint military exercise taking place at Port McKenzie. I don't know all the details right now. They're still conferencing on that. What we would be looking at is a combination of some Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, bringing in approximately 300 to 400 personnel, upwards of 2,000 pieces of equipment, and then doing their thing out there. So don't know exactly what all that'll look like, but there will be opportunities for visits. These distinguished visitor visits will be occurring with generals. I'm sure some folks from the DC delegation will be out there depending on their schedules. So just something to keep aware of. And then just one last thing while I got the microphone, I just want to say thanks to all of you. I really do appreciate the support. It allows us and my team to do our job with confidence with you guys having our back. And it's not always easy, you know, time is money. These barges sometimes show up out of nowhere and we have to be out there. And sometimes depending on the tide, it's, you know, 8 at night, 1 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Sometimes it's on the weekends. So I'm just thankful to have staff that are flexible, adaptable, and willing to do some heavy lifting from time to time. So thank you all.
Well, thank you for the job you're doing. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I want to echo that for Dave. Like, you're looking at our entire port staff right now. There's nobody else hanging out in the background. That's it. And they make that happen. This was a very busy summer, and it was really, you know, I mean, it's shipping. They don't care if the sun's up or the sun's down or what time of the day it is. They follow tides, and they do their thing. And these folks have to figure that out and problem solve that because we don't have a lot of other capacity in that area. So it was a great season. And I just want to kind of reflect back, you know, it'll be next month, it'll be 4 years when I got here. The conversations at this table was about mothballing the port.
Yeah.
It's remarkably different today. And I don't think that sentiment is just our sentiment up here. We're seeing that in the region, right? And so I think it's moving in a good direction. I'm optimistic. And I do think we'll see some things that are more solid moving forward here in the near future. So I appreciate Dave and your team for what you guys are doing, and I appreciate the support of our elected officials. Without that, it is nearly impossible to make this thing go, because then you have people, when you're talking about business development, not even believing there's political support behind the port. That's impossible to sell. So I do appreciate the support. It does matter. That's all.
Yeah, you're right. That's one of the first discussions we had was, how do we deal with, and you two are smiling down there because you guys were two of the people we had to convince. Go ahead.
Since you convinced me, I'll tell you, but as I say, it's due to these people here and what they've made happen,
Right.
because before it was just like, they were, pardon the expression, dead in the water. It wasn't going anywhere. And the only thing we were looking at was like tank farms and stuff like that. And now we're looking international, and that is amazing. So I don't like to admit that I'm wrong if it doesn't have a good outcome, but here I'm really happy to do that.
Okay. The next, oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also think it would be remiss if we didn't talk about the port commissioners too. I mean, we've got an incredible port commission right now with an extremely diverse background in industry and business, and they are very excited about what's going on at the port right now. And so I just wanted to mention them also.
Right. Yeah, the Assemblyperson Palmer too.
And maybe question to Mike or Dave. Did Railroad submit any competing proposals that we know of, or no? Did Railroad submit any competing proposals for the railroad?
I mean, they did. I will say this, when I say they're engaged, like that grant application to Creasy, which is our first run at federal funding for a project that's been it's well over a decade old, and we've done it 100% with state funding. The railroad did that grant application on their own. They paid for it. They facilitated it. I mean, I think they've had some help. They might be getting some encouragement from the state level. A couple of, former legislators or legislators have pushed on the railroad to be more engaged and try to find ways to problem solve completing PMRE. And so I will give them credit. I think they're doing that, and they're preparing. That's tomorrow's meeting, is actually to talk about what's our next run look like? How do we get a debrief on the grant from the federal feds? And then how do we shore that up and make it stronger than it was this year? And I think one of the things we'll probably do is have more of a DOD connection into the grant that we did not have in this go around. So I'm encouraged by that, because I think it's genuine. At first I was like, they're probably feeling the pinch from some others. Now it feels like, I think they're like genuinely, we're all headed in the same direction, and that's a good thing.
Okay. Yeah. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
I'd like to give a shout out to the prayer team, the prayer warriors that have been praying for the poor every Friday.
Okay. Further discussion, questions, comments? Okay. All right. The next item on our agenda is, Mr. Attorney, do you have a report?
I cannot top that. No report.
Okay. And Madam Clerk?
The clerk,
additional report?
well, the clerk's report is in your red folder with the upcoming meetings, schedule, and quasi judicial reports. And I would like to ask Assemblymember McKee to come down front so I can swear her in.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm going to give this to you, and then you can repeat after me, but if I can get you to raise your right hand. I state your name.
Dee McKee,
Having been duly elected
having been duly elected
to the office of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough
to the office of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough
with a term beginning
with a term beginning
November 25th, 2024,
November 25th, 2024,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of
the
Alaska,
Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and the Matanuska-Susitna Borough Code,
and that I will honestly,
and that I will honestly,
faithfully, and impartially
faithfully, and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as Assembly Member
as Assembly Member
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Got some signatures for you. Get you to sign here. And then one more signature right here. Just because I'm notarizing you.
You. And the next item on our agenda is citizens and other correspondence. Are there any comments on the citizens and other correspondence? Okay,
For
hearing,
me to read Diane's?
nope, I'm just doing hearing none on the citizens and other correspondence. They are presented. Now, Madam Clerk.
Jumped the gun there. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am 24202, reporting conclusion of contract number 23087B with Valley General Construction LLC for the total contract amount of $461,740.44 for the West Forest Lake Drive grading drainage project. I am 24203, reporting of conclusion of contract number 23090B with Ficklin Construction for the total contract amount of $1,198,589.50 for the Matanuska-Susitna Borough School District pedestrian projects. I am 24205, reporting the conclusion of contract for bid 23001B with Orion Construction for a final contract amount of $1,515,647.40 for the design build emergency services fill site warm storage building project. I am 24208, reporting a conclusion of contract bid number 23084B to Dirt Works for Doc McKinley Avenue and Jesse Joe Place road improvements. I am 24209, informing the Assembly of a grant amendment for grant number 23DC047, implementation of the 2021 Borough Transportation Infrastructure Package to be presented to the manager for signature. I am 24210, informing the Assembly of the manager's signature on and submittal of the Alaska Clean Water Actions grant application, requesting $133,500 to fund a public education and outreach campaign regarding healthy riparian areas in the Mat-Su.
Okay, are there any comments on the IMs? Okay, hearing none, then they are presented. They do not have any special orders. The next item is audience participation, and we have another sign-up sheet.
I don't see my staff. I will be right back.
Okay. There she is. Here she comes. Thank you. And so we'll have the people that signed up, have them go ahead and testify, and then we will open it up to anybody else that wants to, including those online. Rod?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. I'm Rod Hanson, Hanson, and here speaking on behalf of the North Lakes Community Council. About 5 o'clock this afternoon, I learned that Senator Schauer and Assemblyman Fonov, I think, had a conversation, and that there was probably going to be some discussion tonight, maybe here during the public comment period, about the Bogard-Selden Corridor Access Management Plan. And so I thought I would just come in and make a few points, and then I think there may be some others that wish to speak as well. So as part of the work that the NLCC is doing, we're doing some outreach to like homeowners associations and other neighborhood groups in the area. I attended a meeting last Thursday with the Shaw's Tri-Lakes Air Park Homeowners Association. And if you recall, when you were briefed on the camp earlier, there are a number of significant changes in that particular area that would be borough road changes associated with the Corridor Access Management Plan. And because it's an air park subdivision, there's a lot of interest and some concern with what is currently showing in the draft plan. And so a number of pilots and landowners are here tonight, and I believe may have a few things to say as well. We are still in that outreach mode. We have a community council meeting scheduled Thursday night this week, and it's on our agenda to gather more input. And our intent will be to continue to gather that input, consolidate, and take a position as a community council providing written input by December 3rd, which is the deadline for this draft review. And so it probably won't take the form of a resolution, but it'll certainly be a list of ideas, things that we believe could be changed in the plan to address some of the community ideas and concerns, both concerns and I think ideas for improvement. Bottom line is the North Lakes Community Council does strongly support the Corridor Access Management Plan, you know, as a direction-setting, problem-solving effort. That particular section of Bogard from Trunk Road to Engstrom, that 3-mile stretch is severely, under-designed for the level of traffic that it sees these days. And so things need to happen, and we realize there's a lot of impacts to kind of the side streets and the intersections. We certainly appreciate the outreach that has happened to the community councils. We had planning member staff attend our meetings a couple of times. I'll try to wrap it up very quickly here. And that was very helpful. We also had people attend the open house. I explained the outreach we're doing, specific to the air park. Early on in the process, I had brought forward to one of the planners a problem with a proposed connection to Charlie Drive, which was going to take and route a lot of traffic across the end of our airstrip. And that just wasn't a feasible plan. They made some changes, but the same problem exists with the new changes proposed. So we're going to have some suggested changes to those plans to protect the property owners in that area and make sure we don't create a safety problem with vehicle aircraft conflicts. And so that's my point tonight, and there may be some others that are interested in talking on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis?
Hello, my name is Travis Reason. I live in Palmer, and I think it was a week ago that I saw on Facebook that they're gonna that the borough is approving for a study for having a tunnel instead of a bridge going through Connect Arm, and I have some opinions on it because some people also put their opinions that you know what, maybe a tunnel would be feasible considering that it's cheaper. That's not true at all. Tunnels are very expensive to build, and you're probably wondering, oh, there's some examples of cities that built tunnels, like New York City with their Lincoln Tunnel. The reason that they built the tunnel in New York City between Manhattan and Jersey City is because the bedrock was too deep, so it made building a bridge impractical. So they did a tunnel instead, and that was in the 30s when they did that. And it's just some thoughts about tunnels. You need to keep them pressurized. You need ventilation so that people won't die from carbon monoxide poisoning. And what if there's a leak? You're under a river, then there's a potential that people can drown. And I was thinking if you're going to do the study, you should probably also extend all the way to Government Hill, where the potential corridor would exit out into downtown. And I think the only good place to put a tunnel over there would be in Government Hill, because the homeowners over there worry that if a highway was built through there, to cut through there and have their properties result in eminent domain, that their property values would go down. So to avoid that, you could dig a tunnel in there and not have to destroy other people's lives in the process. And also another thing about tunnels, you can't see them. When you go to San Francisco, you see the Golden Gate Bridge. When you go to New York City, you see the Brooklyn Bridge. Have you guys ever seen what the Lincoln Tunnel looked like, or the channel between France and the UK? No, because they're underwater, where they're not seen. So if we were to build a crossing for finally that the Valley and Anchorage needs, we should do it in the best of our abilities and make it to where it'll stand out. To make it stand out and put our community on the map. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Janice?
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Janice Norman, and I'm a longtime Matsu Valley resident. And first, I wanted to say I forgot that we have some people here that just got reelected. So congratulations to everyone that was reelected. I would like to continue with my discussion about elections. Sure. And the thing that I first want to talk about is the disconnect on communication for getting hand counters and poll watchers. I personally know of several people that were trying to get on as hand counters or as poll watchers, and no one would return the calls, and they kept trying with different organizations. They did with the Republican Club, with the borough, with the state, and they weren't getting any return calls. And I'm not sure what the disconnect is there. If there was some way that we could involve other groups to help bring in these people, I don't know if it's a case of vetting them or what the problem is, but there's some groups that are willing to help out in getting more hand counters and poll watchers and poll workers, if that's something that we could think about. The other thing is, I heard mention about the poll watchers serving as hand counters later on in the day, or I don't know what the deal was, if it was a poll watcher serving that same day as a hand counter. I personally don't see the problem with it, especially when you have a shortage of people to fill these positions, if the poll watchers working in the first part of the day and then they come back later on in the evening and work, I think that's great. More to them. They've got the energy to do it. I don't. But if it had been spread out to where I could have worked like several different days, that would have been great. But anyway, so I don't see a problem with that, and I hope that that's something that is not stopped at this point. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about, there are organizations, and I did include this in the email that I sent to all of you guys about Cause of America, that has an actual hand counting training program, and it's very efficient. And they use 4 people on that team, and they actually use 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. So if there's any cheating going on, it's going to be stopped right there, because one team's not going to let the other team cheat, right? So anyway, I would like to discuss with someone if that's possible to get together and talk about looking at that program. Otherwise, like I say, it's in the email that I sent to you guys, and I would really love for you guys to check out their program. I think it would be very beneficial to us, so you don't have hand counters that are getting exhausted. Thank you. Jackie?
Greetings, Madam Mayor and Assembly. My name is Jackie Goforth. What a difference a day makes. Last night, when I was leaving orchestra practice, I played the cello. If I didn't hold my cello vertical, if I held it horizontal, it took me sideways with the wind as I was going to my car. Now, what I want to show you right now is I'm actually an artist, too. The reason I bring this to your attention is because I learned negotiating tactics by selling my artwork. Okay? I learned when a guy wanted to buy it that if I didn't give him a price, he lowballed it. He said, I'll give you $5. So I told him, no, it's 5,000. And then, of course, you negotiate, right? Well, what does that have to do with the post I'm handing you? The post I'm handing you is a Facebook post. In February, when I found out that there were books with obscene material in them, I was treated to, February of 2023, 20 months ago, I was treated to non-engagement with everyone I tried to talk to about what I do with this. So I wrote my own challenges up, and I submitted them to the assembly clerk here, a great big stack of challenges on 38 books. Now, that got me some attention, and I heard from the Parks, Recs, and Library Service Manager that the forms were unacceptable. They were considered void 20 months ago. Well, the person who wrote that Facebook post stated in the library board meeting, she is a library board member, that the reason she wrote that post is because she sent a FOIA request in requesting the last 12 months of challenges. The last 12 months of challenges to the library books. Well, I don't know if you know what happens when a voided document is released as a valid document through a government FOIA. In case you don't, it's called ratification. Those challenges are now valid. I'm now going to be adding them to the LCAC queue. So I'm respectfully requesting the Assembly to instruct the Community Development Department to handle those documents exactly as written, because once they are input, I suggest they start with Fun Home, by the way. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've been researching the enforceability of voided and released contracts and documents. I want you to know there's legal precedence to this. Mensforth versus Chicago Brass Company, 1910, out of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Larson versus the Domestic Foreign Corp, out of, where's this one? District Appeals, the District of Columbia. That was decided June 27th of 1949. These are now legal documents. Those 38 challenges, it's not all 38 because I've managed to go through about 15 of them. Those also need to be added to the Library Citizens Advisory Board because they're now legal. And I ask you to please make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
My name is Linda Spohn, and I too want to congratulate the 3 assembly members, Bernier, Fonoff, and McKee, on being reelected to the assembly. You have all been a great asset to the Mat-Su Borough and work well for the people. Thank you, and I am personally grateful to you. I thought the borough election went really efficiently, and I thank the borough clerk Lonnie and Estelle for the excellent hand count training. Now, we still have a lot of work to do on the library book issue. Mat-Su Borough taxpayers should not be forced to fund obscene, vulgar, perverted books in our taxpayer-funded libraries. There are more than plenty of good educational, inspirational, historical books to order. I'm not in any way talking about banning books. Filthy smut is available just about everywhere. Taxpayers should not have to pay for indoctrinating in DEI, LGBTQ, transgendering, or obscene material that is dangerous or harmful to our Mat-Su Borough. Couldn't you just write up a resolution saying these aren't allowed in our borough libraries? Think about it. Thank you.
Kathy Hens?
Good evening. I'm very excited to be here. Madam Mayor, Assembly members, congratulations on your reelection. I think it's awesome. So I'm going to talk about election opportunities, and it's my understanding that there was a lot of help needed and that help didn't come through for the election. And so I understand the plea for help. I worked years in hospice, ER, ICU, lots of medical, help for families, help for staff, help for patients. I had a hospice patient that fell and broke her hip. She was in assisted living, and so I was taking care of her. And I noticed that she started having her whole peri area was just filling with decubitus ulcers and sores. And so we asked the staff if they needed training, and they said no. And so it kept happening more and more. And on a Friday, I decided to date the back of her Attends. And on Monday, I went in, and she was wearing the same Attends that she was on Friday. So either they were afraid to change her or they didn't have enough staff. And I reported it to the nurse in a really nice way. And she reported me to my company. And they pulled me in and said I could not report that because they needed to keep their census up and not offend the assisted living. So I asked them what they would like me to do if they were that hospice patient. And so understanding the plea for help with the elections, I wanted to be a poll watcher or some way. So 3 months before the election, I started putting my district chair, and I heard nothing. 3 months. And I kept asking, what's the status? What's the status? So a week before the election, I said, how can I get in contact with the person who manages this? So he got me the phone number, and I never heard anything. So I called the person, which was CJ Cohn. And I asked her, I said, well, how did you get my name? And she said, yes. And I said, well, what's the status? And she said, well, I'm sending out emails for training today. And if I get a hold of you, you're chosen. And if I don't, you're not. And I said, okay, well, what's the criteria? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, what do I need to do to qualify to be a poll watcher? And she said, well, there is no criteria. And I said, well, then how is it made? And she says, I make the decision. And I said, okay. So I thought, well, maybe I'll hear from her. I never heard anything. So I went to vote, and I asked the person in charge, the poll worker, I said, how many poll watchers do you have here today? Well, we had one, but they left early. And we really don't need them because everything is secure. And I said, oh, okay. Well, that's a good piece of information. So I just wanted to share with you that I was excited to help. I wanted to help. I heard the plea for help, and I wanted to be a poll watcher. I even took the training. I heard about a training that was being offered, and so I took the training, and I was all ready to work, and I never got a call. And I was so disappointed. And I'm sorry that I couldn't help in your elections, but I would like to see better ways in the future, and I just wanted you to know, okay? Thank you.
Kathy, will you state your name, please? For the
Sure.
record?
Yeah, I'm Kathy Harris.
Thank you.
I just want to say If you're wanting to be an election official, feel free to call the Borough Clerk's office. We will take your application.
Okay, Karen?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly and everybody. My name's Karen Lewis, and congratulations. Bravo. Lonnie, you did a great job. You did. You always impress me. You're on it. And I did turn my application into you, and everybody should. And we worked hard, and we got it done. I think Jackie was in the last crew at 5 o'clock in the morning. But we had our numbers before the rest of the nation, so we must not have done too badly, huh? But no, I appreciate people wanting to, be poll watchers. We need more poll watchers. We need eyes on everything. So, yeah, I think we did a good job, especially for pretty much the first time around. So, I've got a couple of issues about the library meetings. I went to the last library, where the library heads meet and talk and Zoom and all that. First of all, I don't like it that the chair for the Assembly LCAC, they call him pastor. Not everybody, but like Kathy Kaiser and I think Hugh does it. And they shouldn't call him, he is a pastor, and I'm sure he's a good pastor, but he should be called, he's the chair. He should be called chairman. I don't know, Chairman Chad Scott, I don't know if they're trying to insinuate something into the situation that this is a religious committee or something. I mean, it could be. There are sometimes insidious intentions of people doing something, maybe bring the ACLU in, that it's not a fair committee. I think it's a great committee. So just wanted to say that. So we should make sure that they address the chair as the chair, not pastor. And I think it's purposeful because we've complained about it and it's over and over and over again. So that needs to be addressed. Also, at that meeting, they didn't have a flag available to say the pledge. So I think it was the chair of that library committee said, well, Zane, because it was at Westella, she said, Zane, you can be the flag. That is not going to work. Okay, Zane cannot be the flag. And for the fact that they were going to let that fly, I mean, Hugh didn't say anything. So we need some decorum, what I was saying? Yeah. So also, Zane said that they're looking at getting RFID in their library books, which is interesting. I think it needs to be researched because there's been some troubles. Sometimes tumors are caused, and it needs research before anything like that is implemented. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Senator?
Good evening, Edna, and Mike Schauer for the record. Here partially as a state senator, but also partially as a borough resident. Congrats, of course, to all those recent reelectees or new electors, I guess, as it goes. And I know what that's like for sure. And I also want to say thanks to the staff because Mike and others, you guys put up with this stuff all the time. You certainly get it, and you never get a call unless something's wrong. And I understand that all too well as well. Two things really for tonight, because there's so many great topics like the port, but I don't have time. But I want to highlight one on the state side, and that's partially what I'm going to talk to, which is the Bogard Road. We know that we are growing. We are the only growing part of the state, actually, if you look at the Mat-Su in general. So that becomes important for us to get on the STIP, to get on the federal money, to bring that in, because we certainly can't afford to pave, upgrade, new roads, all of that without that help. So, and the borough continues to do a really good job of saving money and not doing things beyond what we budget. So I appreciate that. It makes it easier on our side. You will find the Mat-Su delegation is very aligned on trying to ensure that we get our share of that because we do need it as we are growing. Bogard is one of those problems. It's part of what we were talking about, which I'm here tonight, and I appreciate our assemblyman helping us to get some information and find out, Mike. I was going to call you, but directly we're already talking about it. And in particular, I'm going to make sure that we try to get that to look something like Palmer Wasilla. a 3-lane at a minimum, because obviously there's no room there for a 4-lane anymore. But a 2-lane road does not work. And anybody that's been on it recently knows it looks like the 405 in LA on any given afternoon. So we're gonna have to do better. So that's my promise to you, number one. On the other side is just a borough resident. I wanted to highlight that because Rod mentioned that a little bit there, Mayor, and that is that I'm concerned about the precedent. And I know it sounds like it might have been a little bit of an oversight on having what would be a road connect two more major roads through a private subdivision that also crosses a runway. And as I understand it, perhaps they didn't see that. So I have a precedent-setting concern that what we don't want to do is have all of a sudden we look at this and go, hey, we need to alleviate traffic here. Let's cross runways. We're obviously not going to want to do that in Palmer or Wasilla or any other bigger airport, Willow, you name it. In Anderson Lake, that's the runway we're particularly talking about, is a busy one as well. And I think we all understand that airplanes, cars, motorcycles, those kinds of things don't mix well. And I can tell you and I live in that one, is to be fair, so that people understand it, but I don't want to see us go down the precedent of realizing, hey, we can cross a runway. I have had people go under my wing. We have had close calls, and the last thing we want is to have an airplane collision with any of those things. So what I'm asking and hope that we will consider is there are alternatives, but one thing we have to be very careful about is having something where I've heard up to 1,000 vehicles could be going through that a day, and they don't live in an air park, they don't understand the rules. I can guarantee you, unless we're going to put in gates and all kinds of other things to make this work, and the borough's going to be willing to maintain that, that's not going to mix well. So I'm hoping that we just look for some alternatives. I know I'm about out of time, so I'll close it there, but that's what I wanted to highlight, and we can work with you guys, and I will certainly help from the state level the best I can do and try to be done right on time so I don't go past the buzzer. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Jeff? Creel? Jeff?
Madam Mayor, members of the Assembly, congratulations on the new members. My name is Jeff Prawley, Pralle. I'm a longtime member, or should I say resident of the borough, first moved here in 1975. I'm also a business owner, and I live in the Bogard corridor and have for a long time. I'm a property owner in Shaw's Tri-Lakes on the Anderson Lake Airstrip. I also have a home in Shorewood. I understand the borough camp issues. We do need to improve the road. I do have serious concerns with routing through traffic through a quiet residential neighborhood with many families with small children, also with the airstrip and potential conflicts. I also have a vested stake in this because one of the proposed roads runs right across my property. As a business owner, if that road goes through, it's going to directly impact my business and Orion Construction. We won't have access to the airport any longer. It will also create potential aircraft, vehicle, and personnel issues that I think need to be taken into consideration. And to follow with Senator Showers, we do need to be extremely careful with establishing precedents in how this is taken care of. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Karen?
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Crandall, and congratulations for all of you new people as part of the Assembly. I really appreciate Ron Benier's happiness that there are people praying for our valley and for the port, and I'm one of them, along with John Miller over here. So I am very concerned about the development of our state and our economy and resources. But to make a long story short, I'm coming here to represent the Big Lake Library Committee. And Bill Gamble, thank you so much for having me be part of it. I did, at the last meeting, ask for the results for the Library Citizens Advisory Committee, and I kind of went through it all, and what I came up with is, and the final decision was done by Jillian Morrissey, the Community Development Director, and these books are really, you know, they're put into young adults, but when you, and they say that 16 and over, but when you look at the census for the United States Bureau, it defines young adults as the ages between 18 to 34 years old as of the year 2024. So we need to keep in mind that young adults are are people that are traditionally expected to become, when you're 18 and over, financially independent, establish good romantic relationships, become parents, assume responsibilities and roles, and to engage as members in society. And so what happened is, as I looked at all the results, there's 4 questions that are asked. And one of the questions is, does the book appeal to the prudent interest in sex for persons under 16 years of age? And so when you look at prurient, I looked up that word, and it is appealing to base instincts in a sexual or pornographic way, a morbid, degrading, or excessive interest in sexual matters. Material is judged to be obscene, arousing sexual desires, and then it creates erotic behavior and excitement. And so these books are being geared and targeted for young people that really should not be having their innocence defiled. And so another thing, question 3 was dealing with, is the material taken as being serious in literary, artistic, educational, political, or scientific value for persons under 16 years of age? And why should it be political? I mean, these books are not political at all, but it's a political agenda that is directed toward having these books in the libraries. And so when you look at the statistics, out of the 7 people that voted, 5 voted that these books be removed altogether. And only two stated put them in the adult section. And so that's another issue, and I'm out of time. But I just wanted to let you know that the consensus is get the books out of there, and we don't want to pay for these books with our tax dollars.
Thank you. Taylor Rowland?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Assembly. My name's Taylor Rowland. I appreciate your time. I don't want to continue on, but I'm here to support what some of the Anderson Lake community is worried about. About 8 years ago, I moved into the Anderson Lake subdivision. I'm a pilot, so you have some options, right? Looked at a lot of the options, and a big part of the reason that I settled on living in Anderson Lake was it was a great place to raise those 2 little boys in the back there. It's a quiet, self-regulating community that had a passion for aviation, right? I met a bunch of the residents and then dealt with the HOA. As some of you may be aware, anytime you have an aviation community, it can go one of 2 ways. It can get really conflicting and problematic, or it can be a team where it works together. Anderson Lake has that team. As a group, we self-regulate that air park and traffic through the air park. There's a lot of onus put on traffic flow and yielding to aircraft on the runway. And when you invite someone to your house, you always make a point to say, hey, there's a stop sign. You're about to cross a runway. Pay attention. Yield to any aircraft. And that's how you make an airport work, in my opinion, and it's a huge part of our Alaskan life, right? I mean, that's a big deal. It's furthermore, it's a great community. It's a community that my kids can walk down the street to the lake and throw rocks at ducks, right? That's the kind of community that I think everybody would want to live in. And the proposal for this, I've followed it a little bit as it came through, and it kind of surprised me. That they actually moved the cross through to my street. Actually, I'm like 2 down from where it would tie into Charlie. And the flow through there would just be, it didn't fix the problem at all. So don't want to take any more of your time up. I'm just here to, I think you understand the situation from previous speakers that are much better than me. But I think that it is important to say our piece and make sure everybody's aware that as a group, I believe Anderson Lake community is strong and all united in this particular incident. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wonder how many more people we have to test. So Is anyone else here that hasn't signed up that you want to testify? Okay, so we have, yeah, 2 or 3 people. I got 4.
Very brief.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Bill Stoltz, not a borough resident, but an honorary citizen of Palmer by
That's
proclamation.
right. You are. You
Larry
are.
Engel, it's, the only reason I'm going to say something today is because there's usually less than a single, not that we don't see a single digit of attendance there, but we're not going to appreciate the loss of Larry Engel until a little ways after he's gone. He started fisheries management in Alaska in 1960, a year before I was born. Served on had a distinguished career as a manager. He was all over the state, but primarily in the valley. Served several terms on the Board of Fish, 2 as chairman. Was originally on the Blue Ribbon panel under Mayor Menard, which has evolved into the very well-respected Fish and Wildlife Commission. He was 2020 Governor's Conservation of the Year in 2020, which was probably about 20 years too late. He should have gotten it earlier. He was the consummate professional. He was the Jack Webb of fisheries management. No emotion. It was all facts and science. I tried to bring a little. I got a very quick lecture about just, and he is responsible for some of the very innovative and effective management, the corridors. And he did it not by emotion or by political clout. He did it by making scientific case for what we've been implementing, and I think I'll just leave it at that. We're not going to realize what a extraordinary person we had until we say we try to coax him to say something out of retirement. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bill. Yes, next person. Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Michael Kaler. I have 3 specific points I would like to discuss regarding the Bogart Selden camp. First, my address is actually on North Charlie Drive, but my kids run through, about a 4-foot wide piece of, dirt and trees to get over into the area around Anderson Lake. There are no sidewalks on North Charlie Drive, so my children cannot safely play there with the speed that people come down that road at. There's also a second issue there that I will not discuss tonight because that's more of a state issue in law enforcement. But when my kids do go and play with those 2 young gentlemen back there, that's a safe road for them to play on. And it also has no sidewalks. But because everybody who drives down that road knows that kids play down that road, knows that there are no sidewalks, they are safe with their speed. Whoever drew those lines, I have a lot of years of map reading in many scenarios. Some of those scenarios are on a 2-way range where if you make the wrong call on a map you're going down, bad things can happen. So when we look through this and we're looking at elevation changes, and there's houses, there's literally a house under one of those lines that was drawn. The second piece to that is that on the public facing webpage that I went and did my research because I got the notifications which went out, I said, great, I got it. I went and looked at it. The line right next to my house is not visible on the public-facing website. I believe that was an honest oversight by the person who put it there, but no one caught it. No one went piece by piece to every hexagon for a cul-de-sac, to every one of those little, rounded off rectangles that's going to become a traffic light or a roundabout. Nobody went piece by piece and double-checked themselves to make sure that I could see it when I went and did my job as a citizen who's concerned. I yield back the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Next person. Is there somebody else that would like to? Yes, come.
Hello, thank you. I'm also one of the citizens that live in Anderson Lake, and I wanted to just basically support and offer my perspective of all the traffic off of Bogart and the impact that it's having on us. I live right off of Bogart. I see accidents there on a weekly basis. It's not uncommon to be woken up at 2 a.m. by lights and sirens or for people to have serious injury on that road. It's a serious issue. Right behind Anderson, we had a recent development where they put a ton of new houses. And I was out there walking my dog, and I ran into one of the contractors of that development, and they had put 4 times the allotted houses back there. And I asked him if he had had approval for it, and he responded and said, "It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission." I don't know if that's actually true, but it doesn't look good for our community. If you just dump a subdivision right off a road without any consideration to the road access, the impact around everyone, or if you're getting the proper permits to put those excess houses in that area, it affects all of us, and ultimately we have to pay for it. I'm a civil engineer, and I can't imagine that this contractor got the approval to put that many houses in an already congested, high traffic, dangerous area that doesn't have the sustainable vision to support that kind of people. Thank you.
Ma'am, did you state your name for the record?
My name is Lily Kramer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody, is there anyone else that, yeah, uh-huh.
Hi, my name is Nicole Smith. I am also a resident of the Anderson Lake neighborhood, and I appreciate the effort that the borough is making to improve safety in that area. I've been to a lot of the different meetings at the North Lake Community Council and have seen some of the plans being put forth. However, I was very surprised when I saw at 5 o'clock tonight that a proposal to connect Sam's Drive to Charlie was even being considered. I mentioned that I needed to attend this meeting tonight to my twins, and even my 13-year-olds were immediately shocked and horrified when I told them that it was a consideration. We live in a neighborhood where when we have guests coming to visit, we warn them, we prep them, we explain that there is a stop sign that crosses a runway. Please don't run it. Please stop and look up before you cross that runway. We also explain that if you come upon an airplane as you are driving, the airplane has the right of way. And it is your responsibility as a driver to back up, pull into someone's driveway, or get out of the way. And for those reasons, it simply does not make sense to add additional traffic through our neighborhood. There is no way it could be done safely. There is no way it could be done without causing more near misses than we already experience regularly with dirt bikes and motorcycles and other cars that just drive through that runway without even stopping. And so I ask you just to consider to change that plan or not approve that proposal and look for other ways to reduce the traffic. Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Spohn. Congratulations to the mayor and the assembly members who were reelected.
Thank
I know
you.
it's not an easy thing to do. Since Ron is my assembly person, thanks for being true to your convictions. Whatever your convictions are, be true to them. And I really respect that, and not changing your affiliations. And if you, whatever you are, that's what you are, stick to it. And I happened to observe some of his signs were stolen. One of the big signs was tore down, backed over, rebars bent over. So it's pretty, it's something you want to see happen. So on a different note, I worked for the state at a precinct for the election, and we worked right alongside the borough people, and it was extremely smooth. Everybody worked well together. There was no problems. But I guess I got to give a little bit of a plus for the borough, because since the state uses those machines, at one time there must have been 15 people waiting because the machine wasn't functioning. And everybody that votes knows nobody can put their ballot in until it takes the one that's getting in. And just happened to have a person sitting next to me that was handing out the borough ballots, and he kind of nudged me and said, "Hey, we don't have any line at ours. They're put in the box and leave." So I think you guys did a good thing by doing your hand counting and doing what you're doing. It'd be nice if we could rub off on the state, but it was amazing to see how much smoother, because I can't tell you how many times that machine had problems. And when it was busy, it's just, but anyway, just my observation. Thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else?
Cheryl Lance, I'm part of the Anderson Lake community. I just wanted to not beat the dead horse because you guys have heard from all of us tonight, but we're an aviation community, but we also own aircraft. And what hasn't been said is it's one of the second largest runways we have in the borough. And we're also one of the busiest in the borough for aircraft. We not only have the runway, but we also land on lakes. And there's a lot of moving aircraft on the ground. We ourselves taxi our airplane on the road to travel there down to the runway to take off. Many of us, like has been stated, people who are not familiar with the community and just looking around the community, they don't realize that those stop signs are there for a runway. They don't know to look over the lake or at the aircraft. We ran into people from other states, right? Our propeller is running and here's their car and they're looking at us that we should go around them or back up. We can't back up. So I just wanted to say that it's like we were all saying, that we have a very strong community. We all respect one another. We all love the kids in the community and the animals, the dogs, and we all walk freely around that lake. So we're just really stressed about the impact that the road going through could cause to our community and our aircraft. And I don't want to see aircraft get crashed, or my husband when he's flying with a car on the road, and especially with the impact of how many cars. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have been requested to have a break, so I think we will have a break before we go to the people online. And then after we're done with the people online, we'll come back and I'll give anybody that hasn't spoken another opportunity. So we will, let's see, about 10 minutes. So 10 minutes to 8, come back.
Hello.
We got a quorum up here, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay, already, and I think. So I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order, and we are under audience participation. And Caleb, do we have someone online that would like to testify under audience participation? We do not. Okay. So I will come back then to the people gathered here. Is anyone that hasn't testified like to testify? Okay. We don't have anybody online, right? Okay. Alrighty, so we will close audience participation. And then, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 24089, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement plan. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Okay, I see somebody coming, so we must have a staff report.
Madam Mayor, members of the Assembly, Alex Strawn, Planning Director for the Borough. The capital improvement program is something that we've been doing since pretty much the borough was formed. I think 1965 was the first year that we had a capital improvement program. And it has evolved over the years. When I came to the planning department around 17 years ago, I was actually given the task of managing the capital improvement program. It was a very staff-intensive document to bring through the public. It was not very useful. It was large and unwieldy, and wasn't really tied to the budget and wasn't much help for the state as well. It had a huge amount of projects that was kind of like a long wish list. And then fast forward to about 3 years ago, the Assembly directed staff to make this a useful document that didn't take a whole lot of time to manage, that would give the community the ability to nominate projects that were important to them and bring it forward to the Assembly for consideration when they're developing their budget. So that's what this document does now. We have essentially, we take nominations from the community for different projects year round, and then in August we form a committee. And first of all, we review them to make sure that they fit within the criteria, that they're within borough powers, that they have a useful life of 5 years, that they're minimum $20,000 or not just routine maintenance. We have a list of criteria, so we weed them out that way. And then we form a committee of various departments within the borough. We have a sort of weighted criteria that we review them for. We kind of rate them. And then prioritize the projects. And so in your folder, you'll see that we have 23 projects that are on the list. And if you look at, this is intended to be a 6-year document. So if you look at, if you were to fund, say, $500,000 a year for 6 years, then it would basically be 12 projects. So Hollywood Road pedestrian pathway scored number 1, and you can see all the ones after that. The Planning Commission did review this. They recommended that it be approved, but they also recommended a change that the number 19, which is the 7th Summit shooting park, development of a new shooting lane, be moved up to number 9 on the list. So this document, if you were to approve it tonight, would be a tool that you could use when you're going through the budget process, that if you want to approve any of these community nominated projects, you can essentially do that. So that helps.
Questions of staff? Yes, Assemblyperson Hale, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So 2 years ago, there was a project submitted by, I believe, the Sutton Community Council for a pathway from the Sutton Library to the, did they resubmit that this year, or did they not?
That was on the list of projects that were scored.
Was it a new submittal or was it the same from last year?
I do not know the answer
Okay,
to
no
that.
problem. That's
Yeah.
no problem. And then, this is probably more of a question for the manager, but, what's the status of the trailhead parking lot improvements at, South Connect River Road that we approved in the budget? It was from last year's CIP.
Yeah, I will follow up with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get you an answer Friday. We're meeting.
Okay, perfect.
I'm looking back. I see a project manager in the back of the room that might know something about that. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
Further questions of staff? Okay. Alrighty, sir, thank you. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing. We probably don't have a sign-up sheet, do we? For resolution 24-089. Is there anyone here that would like to testify on this resolution? Caleb, do we have any? We do not have anybody online. One last chance. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and Deputy Mayor.
Move to adopt Resolution 24-089.
Discussion by the Assembly. Is there any objection to passing the legislation? Hearing none, then the legislation passes.
Ordinance 24099, an ordinance conveying and merging the borough's development rights interests with agricultural rights title for fee simple title with agricultural covenants for tax IDs number 26N05W2C002 and 26 North 5 West 21C003 to Anthony and Tammy West. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly members. My name is Suzanne Riley. I'm the asset manager with the Matsu Borough Land Management Department. I'm here to present a brief staff report on IM 24186 and ordinance serial number 24099. In November of 2022, the Assembly unanimously passed legislation to establish a volunteer program enabling agricultural properties sold under former Title 13 to convert to Title 23. Under former Title 13, when borough sold agricultural properties, the ag rights were conveyed to the buyer while the borough retained development rights. In contrast, under Title 23, the borough sells agricultural land with fee simple title while imposing covenants, conditions, and restrictions that run with that land. This conversion program allows the agricultural rights holder to obtain fee simple title with restrictions, ensuring the property continues to be used for ag purposes in perpetuity. Anthony and Tammy West have applied for and qualified to purchase the remaining interest in the land estate according to Matsu Borough Title 23 and the Land and Resource Management Policy and Procedures. Staff recommends that the Assembly approve Ordinance 24099, which conveys the borough's remaining interest in the land estate and implements the covenants, conditions, and restrictions outlined under the Title 23 agricultural programs.
Questions to staff? Okay, you did excellent. For anybody that doesn't know, I've known this young lady since she's, I don't know, been half as tall as she is right now, and this is her first staff report to the Assembly, so she did. The only thing I can't get over is calling her Susie instead of Susan. So I have to realize she's grown up. So anyway, Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt Ordinance 24-099.
Didn't do the public hearing, did I?
No, I don't think you did. I don't think you did.
Sorry about that. I need to open the public hearing. So, anyone that would like to testify on ordinance 24-099? Nope, nobody online? Okay. Well, it's only 30 seconds earlier. Okay, now Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Ordinance 24-099.
Okay. Discussion by the Assembly. Any objection to the legislation? Hearing none, the legislation has passed. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24-102, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $41,230.75 from the Alaska State Department of Education and Early Development for the Online with Libraries Internet Cost Assistance Grant Program with accompanying resolution 24-109, a resolution approving the budget for the Online with Libraries Internet Cost Assistance Grant. If you're on the phone, would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Staff report. Go ahead.
Good evening, thank you. Hugh Leslie, Recreation and Library Services Manager for the Mat-Su Borough. I'm going to back up 2 steps and address Mr. Hale's question regarding the Sutton Library Path. We're actually going to do that in-house with our trail staff next summer, so that's why it's off the CIP list. Moving on, we ask that the Assembly approve the ordinance for the acronym is the OWL system that we use at the library. We use this money to offset internet costs and material costs. We've used this program for approximately 10 years now, and it's a benefit to the community, and it allows us to speak very much like a FaceTime or a video conferencing system, like a Teams, like the Teams system that we use throughout the borough.
Okay, questions of staff? Okay, thank you, sir. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for ordinance 24-102 and resolution 24-109. Is there anyone that would like to testify on this ordinance or this resolution? Do we have anybody online? We do not. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt. Move to adopt ordinance 24-102 and resolution 24-109.
Okay, discussion by the Assembly. Is there any objection to the legislation? Okay, hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24-103, an ordinance approving an appropriation of $32,045 from the Enhanced 911 fund balance to a project to reimburse the city of Wasilla for text to 911 services and a session border control system with accompanying resolution 24-110, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for a project to allow the city of Wasilla to obtain reimbursement from the Enhanced 911 surcharge funding for text to 911 services and a session border controller system. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Okay, staff report, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Assembly, and staff. Congratulations to the mayor and assembly members for their position back with us. Look forward to working with all of you. This ordinance in front of you is to reimburse the city of Wasilla for a session border control system. And what it is, it helps with their regulating their IP communications. It automates their calls when you call 911, and it helps with the transferring of 911 calls. So they've already have the equipment, and this is just reimbursing them out of the E911 funds.
Okay, questions of staff? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 24-103 and resolution 24-110. Is there anyone present that would like to testify on either this ordinance or the resolution? Anybody online, sir? Nobody online? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And let's see, Justice Sumner.
I move to adopt an ordinance 24-103 and resolution 24-110.
Okay, is there discussion by the Assembly? Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24-104, an ordinance accepting and appropriating a grant in the amount of $2,500,000 from the Alaska State Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development for the flood and erosion mitigation for susceptible roads project with accompanying resolution 24-111, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for a grant in the amount of $2,500,000 from the flood and erosion mitigation for susceptible roads project and authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with the Alaska State Department of Commerce and Community and Economic Development. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Staff?
Good evening, Cole Brand, I'm Project Management Division Manager. To the Assembly through the Mayor. So this ordinance before you is to accept, appropriate, and establish a scope of work for a $2.5 million grant from the state of Alaska. This grant will fund roadway and drainage improvements aimed at reducing the risk of flooding at the Heart Lake Loop area and Circle View subdivision, located alongside the Matanuska and Little Susitna River. So the borough will use these funds to conduct field investigations and evaluate design and construct improvements.
Questions of staff? Okay, thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 24-104 and resolution 24-111. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify either on this ordinance or this resolution? Okay, anybody online? Caleb, we do not? One last chance, okay. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-104 and resolution 24-111.
Okay. Discussion by the Assembly. Is there any objection to the legislation? Okay, hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24-105, an ordinance accepting and appropriating a grant in the amount of $750,000 from the Alaska State Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development for the road improvement and upgrades project with accompanying resolution 24-112, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for a grant in the amount of $750,000 for the road improvement and upgrades project and authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with the Alaska State Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Staff, go ahead, Cole.
Cole Branham again, Project Management Division Manager. So this ordinance here is to accept, appropriate, and establish a scope of work for a $750,000 grant from the state of Alaska. This funding will support road improvement and upgrades in the Sutton area, specifically for Eska Street, Granite Street, Utah Street, and Grand Avenue. The borough will use these funds to oversee field investigations, design, and construction for the road improvements in this area.
Questions of staff? Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 24-105 and resolution 24-112. Is there anyone that would like to testify on either one of these? Okay, anybody online, sir? No. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-105 and resolution 24-112.
Okay, discussion by the Assembly. Any objection to the legislation? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24-106, an ordinance accepting and appropriating a grant in the amount of $700,000 from the Alaska State Designated Legislative Grant Program for the design and construction of a fire and emergency medical services building in Willow with accompanying resolution 24-113, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for a project for the design and construction of a Willow fire and emergency medical services building, safety building. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Staff, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Assembly members, and staff. Ken Barkley, Director of Emergency Services. This money will be used to put toward design and construction of a new public safety building that'll be in Willow. That'll serve the area between Big Lake and Talkeetna. And this is just going to help us get the project going, get the design going, and some of the construction.
Questions of staff? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
Out of this building, do they actually like do medical work on people? I mean, do they see patients there? I guess is what I'm asking.
Through the mayor, Assemblymember McKee, no, they do not. This is where the firefighters and medics will be housed and respond out of.
Okay.
Okay, Assemblyperson Nowers.
Did I see in the write-up that there might be space for law enforcement also at this facility?
Through the mayor, Assemblymember Nowers, that was in the talks early on, and there still may be office space for them to sit, do paperwork, and so on. We're not sure yet what their commitment will be, but those discussions will be had prior to construction.
Okay, I just know that the school district has talked about, I think at one point, an entire portable or something in the Houston area. Just might, I'm sure that the discussions are ongoing, but making sure the school district knows that there may be space, and we're coordinating with them, so we're not trying to make two different spaces. If it ends up, I understand, it's still to be determined, TBD.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further questions to staff? Yes, Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
First of all, the $700,000 is money that Representative Kevin McCabe got from us. He got $1 million allotted to him, and $700,000 is what he put in for this project. So I'd like to thank Representative McCabe for that. But, Director Barkley, this is just basically to get the design done and do all the preliminary work. The actual building is going to cost a lot more than this, right?
Through the mayor, Assemblymember Gamble, absolutely, sir, that's correct. We're somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 million probably.
All right.
But this will get us started, and then we can get the design, and that'll give us a much better picture of what the cost will be.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions to staff? Okay, all right, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing then on ordinance 24-106 and resolution 24-113. Anyone that would like to testify on this ordinance or this resolution? Anybody online? Nobody online, sir? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Deputy Mayor?
I move to adopt ordinance 24-106 and resolution 24-113.
Okay, discussion by the assembly. Any objection? Okay, hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Now we are to our second audience participation. We do not have a sign-up sheet, okay? So this time, anybody can address the assembly on anything that's on the agenda or anything that they would like to bring to the attention of the assembly. Okay, do we have anybody online, sir? We do not? Okay. Go ahead and close audience participation then. And we are now to the consent agenda. Does any, I don't think we had anybody pull earlier, but is there any items that the assembly at this time would like to pull? Okay, Madam Clerk then.
Resolution 24-116, a resolution waiving the outdoor use permit fees for the Denali Nordic Ski Club. Resolution 24-117, a resolution waiving the Borough Gym Facility use fees for the Greater Palmer Chamber of Commerce for Colony Christmas. Resolution 24-120, a resolution amending both scopes of work for the fiscal year 2023 thaw truck boiler and component replacements, truck numbers 30 and 65 projects to allow for the purchase of one new thaw truck replacing the two aging thaw trucks. Resolution 24-121, a resolution establishing dates for payment, delinquency, protest, and appeal of the 2025 regular assessment and tax rolls and for the commencement of hearings before the Board of Equalization. AM 24-119, approval of change order number 2 for contract 23083B with Northern Asphalt Construction Incorporated for the West Cherry Lake Drive, Karen Avenue, North Anthony Road, and West King Arthur Road improvements project, and extend the contract to July 31st, 2025. AM 24-120, approval of change order number 1 for contract 2379B with professional and technical services for the West Cherry Lake Drive, Karen Avenue, North Anthony Road, and West King Arthur Road improvements project to extend the contract to July 31st, 2025. AM 24-121, awarded bid number 2550B to Orion Construction in the contract amount of $6,621,800 to construct Phase 1 of Central Landfill site improvements. AM 24-122, awarded bid number 25055B to Granite Construction in the amount of $2,195,976.20 to construct Midway Road Service Area road improvements. AM 24-123, approval of change order number 6 for contract 2260B with Anchorage Striping LLC for the 2022 through 2024 crack sealing services project to add $142,910.50 to the contract for additional services to road service area numbers 15, 23, 26, 28, 29, and 31. AM 24-124, acceptance of late file and retroactive senior citizen disabled veteran exemption applications. 24-125, approval of change order number 3 for contract 23-126B with Western Construction and Equipment for the Big Rock Road Improvements Project to add $36,939.75 and to extend the completion date to January 31st, 2025. AM 24-126, approval of change order number 4 for contract 2305C with HDL Engineering Consultants for the Lucille Street Upgrade and Pathway Project to add $378,791 for land acquisition services and to extend the contract to December 31st, 2026. AM 24-128, awarded bid number 25075B to Orion Construction in the contract amount of $298,000 to construct the Wasilla Pool drain repairs. AM 24-129, approval of contract amendment number 1 to contract 23086P with Stantec Architecture to extend contract completion date for the design of the animal care facility remodel upgrades to April 30th, 2025. AM 24-130, awarded proposal number 24161P to Steppel Engineering in the contract amount of $245,245 to perform a city water distribution system condition assessment in Talkeetna. AM 24-131, awarded bid number 257B to Steppers Construction in the contract amount of $6,462,378 to construct the new Gateway Visitor Center. And AM 24-132, awarded contract number 25084C to HDL Engineering in the contract amount of $109,616 to design Colony Schools water supply improvements.
Deputy Mayor.
Move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. See Casey out there. Oh, he's finally have the contract to go for the gateway. We should have cake. I guess we do have cake, right? There is no unfinished business, there are no vetoes, and no new business, but we do have introductions.
Introduction for public hearing on December 3rd, ordinance 24-108, ordinance 24-110, ordinance 24-111 with accompanying resolution 24-115, ordinance 24-112 with accompanying resolution 24-118, ordinance 24-113 with accompanying resolution 24-119, ordinance 24-114 with accompanying resolution 24-122, and with a public hearing on January 7th, ordinance 24-109.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Move to introduce the legislation as read into the record by the clerk and set the public hearing December 3rd, 2024 and January 7th, 2025 respectively.
Is there any discussion, sorry? Any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, the legislation has been introduced. And next is the vacancy report, and we have a new presenter, Assemblyperson Hale.
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations as follows. Agricultural Advisory Board, Abby Ray-Sinnen. Board of Ethics, resignation of Todd Smolden. Chase Trail number 134, resignation of Johnny Murdoch, removal of Paul Bowman. The terms beginning January 1st, 2025. Agricultural Advisory Board, Kenneth Hoffman, Adam Jensky, Lamar Anderson. Animal Care and Regulation Board, Sally Pollen. Board of Ethics, Kimberly Swanson, Hank Herglotz. Commission on Salaries and Emoluments, Jessica Vieira. Enhanced 911 Advisory Board, Casey Cook, Zachary McRae. Health and Social Services Board, Eddie Ezell. Historical Preservation Commission, Janet Kincaid, Kevin Toothicker. Labor Relations Board, Shirley Applecock. Library Board, Mark Spone. Local Emergency Planning Committee, Casey Cook, Harry Hillman, Kenneth Hudson, Josh Turner. MSB Fish and Wildlife Commission, Gabe Kidder. Plating Board, Michelle Traxler. Port Commission, Dane Crowley. Water and Wastewater Advisory Board, Robert Walden, Matt Midget. Caswell FSA number 135, Cheryl Newsom. Talkeetna FSA number 24, Dan Adamson. West Lakes FSA number 136, Kathy Kramer. Willow FSA number 35, Michael Johnrow. Big Lake RSA number 21, and Andrew Traxler. Caswell Lakes RSA number 15, Tamara Bovey. Fairview RSA number 14, Terrence Dolan. Greater Talkeetna RSA number 29, Robert Gerlach. Greater Willow RSA number 20, Todd Smolden. Lazy Mountain RSA number 19, Daniel Keene. North Colony RSA number 23, Barbara Gerard. South Colony RSA number 16, Kelly Gordon. Chase Trail number 134, Tim Cox.
Thank you. We are having quite a few people that are serving, but their term is up the end of December. So some of these are reappointments because they put in so their term doesn't actually start until January 1st. But so that's one of the reasons we have a lot of people. So any discussion on the vacancy report? Any objection to the vacancy report? Okay, hearing no objection, the vacancy report is approved. We have no other new business. We have no referrals. We have no reconsiderations, and we are to staff and assembly parting comments. Assemblyperson Fano, we'll start at your end. You have parting comments? No. Okay. Assemblyperson Gamble?
No, thank you.
Assemblyperson Sumner, parting comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk? You think you've done enough talking tonight? Mr. Manager?
I do.
You have some, okay.
I won't be long. I want to take this opportunity. Chad, would you stand up? You're like, oh my gosh, what's he doing? That's Chad Fry in the back. I just want to introduce him. If he's doing his job, you will never see him in this room again. He is your new Operations and Maintenance Division Manager in Public Works. So road maintenance falls under his umbrella. So he's a busy guy right now. He came to kind of check out a meeting. You can sit back down. I'm not going to call you up and make you speak. I just want them to put a name to a face. If you do get a chance to see him and you want to shake a hand, he'll be probably one of the guys, as we navigate complaints. It's winter. I mean, you can't get around it. So just wanted to acknowledge that and introduce you. So if you end up you cannot file complaints right now, Mr. Gamble.
No, I just want you to acknowledge that he is Air Force.
He is. He is a retired Air Force veteran. And one of the things that struck me, I mean, I'm not going to tell too much. Chad's like, oh my gosh, this guy. But he, when I was talking to him, I was like, well, what intrigues me is what brings people to Alaska. He wasn't up here at J-Bear when he retired. He retired in the lower 48 and moved to Alaska. And he said, one of the things he said to me that struck me, he's like, I got 2 young boys and this is where I want to raise them. And I was like, I get it. I like that. So his wife's up here. She's working in the valley. They're living out here. It's good. So he's a relatively new transplant, I suppose. So when you get a chance to see him, welcome him. I think he's going to do great things for us. Along those lines, winter operations dashboard, that map went live today. So that's where that vehicle location is tracking contractors as they perform winter road maintenance. It's really year round, so it'll include brush cutting and different things in the spring. It's a learning process. When you roll out something like this that's different, it's learning for us, it's learning for contractors, it's new. I mean, we're talking about taking grader operators and plow truck operators and putting technology in their hand and actually expecting them to use it. So there's a little bit of pushback and resistance, and there's a little bit of a learning curve, right? So we went live with that today. We've been watching it for a couple weeks. We wanted to get a couple of events under their belt so we didn't just like roll it out and hit them up and it's like creating chaos. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I'm sure it'll be a learning curve, and it'll be interesting to see how the public receives that, how it impacts our contractors, and ultimately how it impacts our oversight of these contracts. But I think it's a good thing. And then lastly, and then I'll be quiet, on the December 10th joint assembly school board meeting, which will be over at the school district, we will do bond proposition schedules. So we as a staff, now that both of those bond propositions have passed and been certified by you, we will kind of talk to you about what we think that looks like in terms of schedules, bond sales, because this is really a new thing for this assembly. I don't think any of you have gone through bond sales, or at least recently, maybe two of you, and kind of how all of this works. So we're going to give you and the school board at the same time an overview of that process and kind of talk about those schedules so we can manage expectations around delivery of those projects. But really excited. It's just going to put a lot more work on Public Works and Finance, but they're good with it. So it's a good news story. So that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Assemblyperson McKee? Would you put your mic on, please?
Will Mr. Sumner be on that?
We haven't made an appointment
I
yet.
see. Okay, thanks.
To the mayor.
Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody yet, so, yeah. Okay, Assemblyperson Nowers, parting comments?
First of all, Chad, I'm not trying to curry favor because the manager won't forgive me, but go Air Force.
Mr. Bernier, help me out.
Congratulations to Ron, Dee, Dimitri, and Mayor. I look forward to coming back and visiting you in 2027 and 2028 occasionally. You'll be here until 2028. I see the confused look. I wanted to mention the mayor was there with me. Matsu College on Friday had a ribbon cutting for a new veterinary tech program that they've started that's been in the works for several years. And there was many people to thank for the efforts to bring that to the Valley. It's a really intensive two-year and a quarter program. But if anybody's had to try to take a pet to the vet lately, the wait is terrible. And so having more people in that field is really a big hole to fill. I had a chance to talk to a few of the students. It was really interesting. They were from the three I talked to, none of them were from the Valley. They were all coming here from Juneau, Fairbanks, and Eagle River. So they were attracted to this program here in the Valley, and the people who put it together could talk about it, but the way they set it up is they're getting certifications that can carry with them, you know, to other states. And that's really important for people who are putting that much effort into a program, to be able to have the certifications and not go to another state and all of a sudden it's not valid. So I welcome anybody who wants to check that program out at the Matsu College. Please spread the word about it. I wanted to just double down on the loss of Larry Engel and Howard Delo from the Fish and Wildlife Commission. I have only interacted with that commission since I joined the assembly, but I don't know if we have another board where people have served for 18 years and 14 years. And Howard's the youngin' in that crew. Larry is, I won't say his age, but a lot of people would be kicking back their heels, and he's spending late nights along with the rest of the crew, and just the amount of information in his head about fish and about the fish process of, which is like, I always say, I'd rather do assembly politics than fish politics. And he knows it from the fish politics, from the fish science, and from the fish management. And I don't know how we're going to replace that. That has been so behind the scenes valuable to the borough. And I hope everybody will be able to be there on December 5th, or at least send a thank you. I'm glad we're gonna try to recognize both of those folks. And then I would just say happy Thanksgiving, since I won't see you before Thanksgiving, Leighton.
Can I ask a question? How many students are enrolled in that vet tech program?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that.
On the program? Is
Yeah.
that what she asked?
Yeah. Do you
There's
remember?
14, enrolled now, 16 is capacity.
Wow.
And they won't have another cohort until 2 years from now, because everybody has to go through this 2 years, and then they will start. And then after that, Marie says that she would like to do it every year, but she said right now, she said if she wants to leave her professors, that she would make that suggestion now. But she said she's not going to do it until they get through the first 2 years. Yeah. Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. My kid is also very excited about that program. She's currently working at North Star Animal Hospital and plans to apply for the 26 cohort. So that's very cool. And then I'm excited to see the live tracking of the plow trucks. That's going to be great. I do also know how hard it is to make something operator proof. So I sympathize with you, but that's going to be pretty fantastic. So.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to provide one, when you said that, it made me think, you remember, we just instituted new RSA contracts in the spring. So not every RSA contract has this as a contractual obligation, right? So that's on the disclaimer when the website comes up. So just to be clear, there are some that are not required to do that, but they will be when we rebid them.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, parting comments?
Thank you for putting up with me tonight. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you, Lord, for all you do for us in the valley. You know our needs. In Jesus' name, amen.
Assemblyperson McKee, parting comments?
Just really briefly, the best part about campaigning is actually getting to talk to the people. And it's usually, you think, I'll just run up and put a literature thing and then I'll get out of there. That's not the fun part. The fun part is when they answer the door and you get to engage. And I think that is so cool. And even though I always say you run as hard even when your opponent may not be really, really serious as if you were competing against you or you or whoever. So anyway, it was a great experience and I really enjoyed it. It's a good way to connect.
Mr. Attorney, parting comments?
Nothing other than the next meeting, I won't be here. Somebody else will staff the meeting. I'll take it up with my office who's going to be here. I'm going to be out of state with my son for another medical appointment. So I'll be back for the joint school board assembly meeting.
Okay. Alrighty. And wow, we're done.
I know.
Wow, hey, this is good. I mean, yeah. So anyway, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we will see you in December. Meeting's adjourned at 8:39.
You will now be disconnected.
Oh, I guess I need to.
We're out of the basement. You want to sleep? Did I tell you what I did when I came?